Shapen, a soft loft, and it's caught inside the 10. Drew Estrada.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And interesting fake. It's a touchdown to Ben Simmons. Just love the poise of this young quarterback.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Single coverage, end zone, Shapen, it is caught for a touchdown! Tyquan Thornton with Christian Holmes all over it.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Empty backfield, four-man rush. And that is intercepted. It's the Marcus Lawrence. Down the sideline, he goes. And look at that. Into the end zone.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go on this Wednesday. late April 27th. Good afternoon. Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And a few things have changed since the last time we spoke with you following Baylor's spring game on Saturday and our discussion on Monday and Tuesday, and analysts and football analysts or whatever. Dave Aranda and the coaching staff made the decision. Blake Shapen is their number one quarterback. Gary Bohannon has entered the transfer portal. And so that happened in the last less than 24 hours. We'll try to break it down and get your feedback as well, and opinion, and how we look at it as well. One of the things I got a text from somebody close to the program. And one of the things that Dave Aranda did, there's two things he did. One, he could have let this linger. And then all of a sudden it's post-May 1st. Not that Gary Bohannon could not have transferred or whoever would have been not the choice. But May 1st is that deadline. We hear about it. You could still transfer, get a waiver. But he did that. He did Gary a favor. And not that it was like, hey, by the way, I'm going to do you a favor. But he could have let this linger, and some coaches probably have. And number two, he was not afraid to make the decision and make it quickly. And we've seen him do this before. When the offensive coaches, of course, struggled the first year, he made immediate moves. We've seen him. He's got that ability. And not all coaches will do that because sometimes they're worried about being one, wrong, and number two, the blowback from the decision.
You know, getting to know Coach Aranda and the way that he handles things. It didn't surprise me that he did right by Gary Bohannon in that he's someone who he doesn't have a motto that's just a motto. Like if it's person over player that they've been talking about all this time, then that's what that is. It's not to steal one from Urban Meyer, the top 1% of the top 1% players and character people, and you uttered that sentence when Aaron Hernandez is on your team, like just to say it. He really means what he says. So if it's player over person or person over player, then the person needs a favor. He needs a little bit of a gap and to go make his decision. And look, he might wind up coming back if you didn't like what's in the portal. I don't think that's likely, but you never know. And they made the decision. They're going to stick with it. And I think it's the right one, but I mean, that can be debated.
Yeah, I think that it's kind of sad, quite honestly, that doing the right thing has to be so talked about and blown up and, praised. I give Aranda credit for making the decision on his starting quarterback, but every single coach in America is going to make that decision. Now, some of them don't have a decision to make because the starter is already there. But, I'll give Aranda some level of credit for handling the position, but that's what he's paid millions of dollars to do. So I'm not going to go too gaga over, how it was done. Had he chosen Gary Bohannon and then Blake Shapen goes in the portal, I'm sure today would be saying, well, good on Dave Aranda for letting Blake time to get into the portal. Like, I just feel like the bar is incredibly low for coach behavior if just doing the right thing.
But I think it is. I think sometimes the bar for coaches is low.
I'm putting under the flashlight right now and talking about, because I think that's so incredibly sad that the bar is that low, that we just assume that Dave Aranda would be like most other college football coaches and just let this linger, not to intentionally hurt somebody else, but to just basically have the benefit of a full quarterback room. So I think if everybody pauses for a second and realizes how low the bar is, that's kind of sad. Now, having said that, I'm glad they made the decision. I'm glad they made it quickly. We didn't know how long this was going to take. It could have dragged out. It could have gone a couple more weeks. It could have gone into the summertime. This could have gone all the way up until 2 weeks before the season opener like it did last year. But that wouldn't have been fair. So, the timing is, quick. Based on his comments on Saturday, I don't think any of us thought when he said he was going to meet with the quarterbacks and meet with players this week that meant by Tuesday he'd have a decision. And I just thought that meant, hey, it'll be a few days and then we'll hear something. But it's good to know. I think it's good to know for fans to have a better picture of what next year is going to look like, who to rally around. It's good for the players to know who the guy is and who, over these next few months, when they're grinding out of the spotlight and really putting in the most important work that's going to be put in, they know who QB1 is. And so I think all of that's good. The only downside, of course, is Gary Bohannon and him entering the transfer portal now. I wish him the best. I wish there was some way that he could end up back in Waco to finish his career because he's put so much time in. But this is the reality of college football, and if he wants to play quarterback, it's it's going to have to be somewhere else unless he wants to sit behind Blake Shapen and hope that his number gets called. So I understand that, and best of luck to him wherever he goes. But, man, he did a lot for Baylor. He was a great leader, and they will certainly miss some of what he brings to the table.
Yeah, Gary Bohannon, other than maybe Nick Florence, and the rules were different back in 2011 when RG3 had the concussion in the second quarter against Texas Tech when he peeled off a red shirt and that was it. By playing the rest of that game. I don't know. I'm sure there's others, but Gary Bohannon's been one of the most ultimate teammates you could have. You talked about leadership. You talk about being there, talking about being in all the different rooms, all the different film rooms, all the different position groups. And you hate it, and yet it's also a production business. And what Dave Aranda's done now is Blake Shapen is the man. He now has the rest of the spring and summer to develop relationships as the quarterback, as QB1 with the wide receivers, and that's a very young group. And I wish Gary Bohannon the best of luck, and I hope he gets another opportunity if he does. And he could also turn out to be even more of an amazing teammate if he does decide to come back, which I would think he won't, and say, okay, you know what, I'm still a hit away from being the starting quarterback. Because we've seen that happen. Both of those guys were hurt last year. I don't know if Dave Aranda's made the right decision. I know a lot of people have acted as they know, but it does appear based on what we saw when Blake played at the end of last year and what we saw Saturday, even a small portion, that he does seem to be the one that is the one with the highest ceiling moving forward.
That's a good way. Jack actually had – Gary probably has the lower floor in that, but he also has the lowest ceiling or higher floor and lower ceiling. But I think we've seen what the offense is with Gary Bohannon. Like, that's what it is. With Blake Shapen, it can be a lot more. Now, will it be that's on Blake Shapen? That's on Jeff Grimes and Sean Bell to make sure that it's more, but he gives you more options to do more things. And if this team is going to take a step forward and defend that Big 12 title, that's probably where they need to go. And I always thought personally that Blake Shapen was the far better quarterback. I just thought he was a lot better. It's not a knock on Gary, but you can do a lot of things with Blake Shapen that you just can't do, and he showed that when he played last year. They were confident on the first play of the game to put him in when Gary pulled his hamstring to throw a pass. Now, a lot of times you put the backup quarterback in for a play and go, all right, look, we're going to get out of this drive right here, hand it off, and do that. But no, they did what they were going to do. So clearly Jeff Grimes had a lot of confidence in him then. Dave Aranda has a lot of confidence in him. I think and this is not for sure, but I think you can make an assumption that they at least feel a little bit better after spring about the guys behind Blake Shapen that aren't Gary Bohannon now than they did before if they're making a decision knowing they're going to lose one of the guys.
Yeah, Kyron Drones, who's a scholarship player from Shadow Creek, and C.J. Rogers, the walk-on from Argyle, who was good in that game on Saturday, and a guy that seems to have picked up the system very well.
Yeah, I think it says a lot about what they think about this team, because I do think the easiest thing to do would have been to just name Gary the starter and keep everything as is, not disrupt or ruffle any feathers. But I do think you would have limited yourself. I think if you were trying to be the absolute best team that you can be, as explosive as you can possibly be on offense, then Blake Shapen was the call. I do worry about his size and, the injury part. But then again, Gary got injured last year and missed, like an entire month. And he's a much bigger target. He, pulls his hamstring. So you can't pick somebody just for the sake of avoiding injury. But I think all things equal, both players healthy. Blake Shapen gives you more of a high-powered offense with his arm. Gary on Saturday made a throw in particular near the goal line that was picked off and ran back for a 90-yard pick six, and it was like man, I can't think of the word, not PTSD, but it kind of felt like, from last year of just
deja vu?
Deja vu of just like, oh, not that kind of a throw. Just there was little throws he'd make at times that are just disastrous. And I think especially in looking back at the quarterbacks in a couple pieces that I wrote over the spring, looking at the numbers and kind of what both guys did. Obviously, Gary had a lot more playing time, but, he went through the first few games of the year without throwing a pick. And I think we all know that was kind of it was a true stat, but it was kind of a shaky stat because there were definitely some picks he should have thrown that just were dropped or whatever. But then if you look at the second half of the year, look at his interception totals. They started piling up. they started piling up like one a game at least, if not a couple a game, and that continued all the way throughout the end of the year. And so when those turnovers started picking up and just some of that confidence got shaky throwing the ball, and then you know what we saw in the Ole Miss game where he was clearly not fully healthy, but it still wasn't that far off maybe from some other throwing performances we saw. So I think, if you're trying to get a high-attack passing game, some accuracy, a little oomph with it, then I think Blake Shapen's the call. Now, it does make me wonder about the running game and what they think there because Gary obviously brought an element to their run game. So I'm very curious just kind of, in their decision-making, ultimately what led them to Shapen over Bohannon, strengths versus weaknesses and things like that.
I've heard that because Gary is a runner and a really good one, although he also was a very good thrower for the most part. Let's not forget they got themselves in position because of what he was at quarterback. But the defense, just like the 2019 team, carried everything along with special teams. Now,
there's been some crazy reactions. I understand that people are going to be extreme. I saw somebody last night, though, that was talking about, well, they wouldn't have been in this Big 12 championship without Gary Bohannon. And look, I will agree to some extent, but I also think that's BS. Like, they got there because of their defense, and they got there because of their run game more than anything else. The quarterbacks played a role, but that was not why they were in the Big 12 championship
He was
game.
the best quarterback for them last year, and this year, now the coaching staff feels like it's Blake Shapen, and who knows what the future holds. One of the other things about the running game, because you look at it because of what Gary can do as a threat running the football and what a defense has to make sure they know where he is too. At the same time, when you can throw the ball, now it's not like Gary could not throw the deep ball. Tyquan Thornton had a fantastic year. But if you can throw the ball better, then you also can run the ball better. Now that also, am I right? We forget the run sets up the pass. The pass can also set up the run. And I've seen throughout the last 20 hours or so about that Blake Shapen needs to bulk up. We've seen big, thick quarterbacks go down. We've seen guys that are wiry that get hit and turn around like pretzels that never do. It's really kind of one of those things. Now, Blake knows that. He also knows he has to be more physical as far as maybe in the weight room or do that. And then again, there's been some guys that are really, really good. Drew Brees was not a physical specimen. I'm not trying to compare Blake Shapen, but I'm talking about he played forever. Like forever. And eventually the body, you could,
If he was made of glass, they would have gone with Gary.
They would have gone with Gary Bohannon. And then also, Kyron Drones has to get better. And he showed improvement with what we saw, but he still has to get better. And C.J. Rogers, we can say what we want, and a lot of you have. C.J. Rogers is a part of this decision because, again, you don't know if that's the answer, then you may not want to know the question. That's just fair, not against C.J. That's with anybody in that position or whatever college program we're talking about. But there's something about him. Now, the question is, does Gary, he's in the transfer portal, does he go somewhere else? Does he find the opportunity there, or does he look up and go, man, I got to go and graduate, I got to get through this, he's graduated, go through the semester, get on a campus in June, learn an entirely new system, even if there's something similar, have to be behind somebody as you join that program and have a chance to play. And then again, it might be at a program that's not a Power 5. I hope it is for his case. And he could, again, come back. Or does Baylor, if he does leave, and most likely he will, do they go look around for another quarterback in the transfer portal? And you wonder if that then decides the decision on that, is that somebody else they bring in who's more experienced? When you already have that person.
I wouldn't. You just mentioned to Kyron Drones. This is good news for Kyron Drones, too, and that means his reps are going to go up and his expectations are going to go up because he has to be ready at a moment's notice, and it's not going to be like he did when he had to play his snaps last year was go in and hand off and turn around because that was where he was last year. So they need the backup quarterback to be the guy who's ready to go in at the drop of a hat, and so that's Kyron Drones now. That's him. So Gary coming back would probably be the Cowboys term is progress stopper. And I hate to use that one, but that's probably what it is.
All right, Craig, you make a comment, whatever you want to say. Finish that up, and I'm going to go to some of the chat room questions because we have some of those and also the comments as well.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect Gary Bohannon to come back. If he did, great. If he doesn't, that's fine too. I just want what's ever best for Gary, honestly. I mean, he's put in the work, and I just want to see him get the payoff. And he got that to some extent last year, but I just hope he lands in a good spot for himself. And, as far as going and looking at a quarterback, I think of when Matt Rule brought in Jalen McClendon, who was a super veteran from NC State that first year, and I think that kind of muddied the waters. They needed a quarterback and some depth, but I think in the situation right now, I don't think one guy bringing him as depth is going to make too much of a difference and probably would just cause more trouble, if anything. So, I don't know how they handle that. Might just by the skin of their teeth, just grit their teeth and try to get through the season with 3 guys, but I wouldn't expect Bohannon back, and I wouldn't think that they would go look too hard in the transfer portal for a guy to be depth.
No, I don't think they will either unless they were to lose somebody else who's in the quarterback room. And I think what Dave Aranda, Sean Bell, Jeff Grimes have done is give Kyron Drones their understanding and what they expect. And I think they've also done that with C.J. Rogers. We could say, he's a walk-on, but he's a young man who now is at least number 3 in the quarterback room, and who knows, maybe even ahead at times in some cases to who is the blue-chip quarterback in Kyron Drones. So you have him in the room. And if you were to bring somebody in from the transfer portal and give him a scholarship when you have a walk-on quarterback that knows the system pretty well and plays at times very well, then that could be, as you mentioned, that could create a little bit of tension in the room.
And I understand the C.J. Rogers love and all that, but he's a walk-on quarterback right now. So, it is what it is. If he's the guy that they plan on being a part of the mix, if he's that good, then I'm sure he'll be on scholarship soon, the way he's being talked about. And if he's not, then I think that says something too. So I'm not too worried about C.J. Rogers in this equation. I think that if you like him, and you don't have to worry about a quarterback. But if you don't and you need to go get a guy, then I think we'll learn that here pretty soon. But I'd expect them to just stay status quo. I don't see what they could do that's really going to make too much of a difference from what they have right now.
I think what they're going to do with C.J. Rogers is let this semester go on, see what he does in the progress he makes in the summer, and then who knows, at some point in August, perhaps he becomes a scholarship quarterback. And if not, again, you might have the answers there as well.
With really athletic walk-ons, I think fans a lot of times fall in love with the story.
Yeah.
Like they want that Chris Doring at Florida, that storybook of walk-on who's the all-time leading receiver. But the reason that I remember that story was because it doesn't happen that often.
Yeah, and I understand he's gotten rave reviews and all that. I'm just saying, though, he's a walk-on quarterback. So, I don't want to include him in the same vein as, Blake Shapen or Gary Bohannon. But I understand, behind the scenes, there's a lot of good talk about him and all that. But yet he is still a non-scholarship walk-on quarterback to our knowledge. And, maybe that changes. And I hope for his sake it does. That'd be great. But right now, I think they stay status quo, like I said.
Here are some of the comments in the chat room. Scotty B, not surprised that Gary transferred out. He will most likely. He's in the transfer portal. From Lee Buttercup, I think Aranda didn't wait until the fall to name QB1 to respectful to GB, Gary Bohannon. Naming not only allows Gary to enter the portal, dude deserves to start somewhere. He gave lots to Baylor. That will never be questioned. Also from Chris, good afternoon. From Jennifer, Lee Buttercup, I agree. From Chris, mentioned Chris Emmert. We'll get to Emmert. We discussed that quite a bit yesterday. This is about the starting quarterback decision at Baylor. Where are the likely landing spots for Gary Bohannon? I would be lying if I tried to throw out a school. I don't know. I'm sure there are options for him, and he might have even been looking at them even beforehand, as maybe Blake Shapen was, knowing a decision might have to be made.
And the thing that kind of throws a wrench in this is a lot of times if you – Quinn Ewers, you knew it was Ohio State or Texas. So, when he went in the portal, you knew that it was just 2 years ago he committed. It's probably going to be Texas or any other schools that he did. Well, it's been 5 years, really, since Gary was recruited. And a lot of those assistant coaches that may have recruited him that he liked that aren't at Baylor, that weren't at Baylor, are probably somewhere else now. What's the system? The timeline, all this stuff. So, it complicates it. So, I don't think we can pretend to know right now. It'll probably kind of come out of the blue.
And who knows who's already contacted him, and who knows who may have contacted him even knowing the decision was coming up prior to the decision being made in public.
Yeah, and I also don't know that he's the most attractive player in the portal just because he's not a, how do I phrase this? I mean, the leadership characteristics and all that, I'm sure people would love to add that to their program, and that's something that Baylor's going to miss. But, as a player, he might be a name that now is in the portal and people go, ooh. But I think when you really look at it, I don't think, he's just an automatic to go D1 and be a starting quarterback somewhere by any means. I just don't know how many places are open, and he's good, but I don't think he's so good that he's just an automatic, he's going to light up the transfer portal as a quarterback.
And he's not JT Daniels, who has had a beleaguered career, but when JT Daniels was coming out and being recruited, he was one of the top quarterbacks in the country.
Yeah, but he started at a Power 5 team that won a Big 12 title. I know that there was the defense, and I know special teams was good, and I know that eventually Shapen took over. But he did, he took 275 throws last year, and he's been around. So I know his value is not JT Daniels. I understand it's not the kid from Incarnate Word. There are certain things that players have, skill sets that they have, but I do think that there will be options for him. Whether they're in the Power 5, I don't know. Perhaps it's not. Maybe it's a group of 5 schools.
My point is not that he's not going to have options. My point is he's not going to go to a big school and be the starting quarterback. Because not just because most people already have their starting quarterbacks. I just think his style of game. Let's not forget, he was not recruited by most people as a quarterback. Most of the bigger schools wanted him as a tight end or a linebacker or things like that. And Matt Rule was the one that wanted to give Gary a chance at quarterback. If it wasn't for Matt Rule, I don't know that Gary would have played quarterback the last couple years. I think he would have been on some other roster playing defense or something. And so, that's where I'm coming from, is that he's not like the picture-perfect quarterback prospect. So, it will be curious to see how much interest there is out there. But, yes, there will absolutely be interest in him.
From Doug Housel, the bar for coaches is to win. Doing the right thing is nice if it lines up with winning at most places. Don't pretend this wasn't a big deal what Aranda has done. Also from ZS77, really can't afford any injury at quarterback. You never can. I mean, really, you really never can. From Daniel.
They got lucky last year that Shapen was this ready.
And that was as ready as he was. Yeah. Exactly right. There's a question about another walk-on. This is from Lee. I hope Shapen hits the weights hard this summer. Needs to be a little more durable because we will run him some, even though he has a better arm than Gary Bohannon. From Darius, I can see Bohannon landing at Colorado, Missouri, or Vanderbilt. Maybe a G5 school. Darius, thanks for your time. I haven't looked at the depth charts of those schools, but that's a possibility. He's from Arkansas, and Missouri's just north of Arkansas. Let me see here. What about Texas Tech with Joey McGuire? They have.
I don't know why that would.
I think they have their quarterback room. I don't know if anyone's established themselves as a guy, but they already have. They have Smith. The kid from Oregon, and then they got a kid, another one coming in. I don't think that's the kid.
I would just say that
not with Kitley.
Yeah, Kitley in that equation. I don't think that Gary fits that.
Baron Morton's the name you're probably trying to think of. That's the name to know.
And they have more coming too.
And I mean, he would do nothing but just crowd the room. To be perfectly honest with you, that's what I'm getting at. That's what I'm trying to say is that Gary is good. But, for example, he can't just go to Texas Tech and be the starter. And so that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm curious to know how much interest he gets and from who, is because he's not an automatic, boom, you add him and he's your starting quarterback. We can't even add him and make him the starter at Tech right now. Or Baylor, obviously. Would he be the starter at Texas? No. Would he be the starter at Oklahoma? No. Would he be, you know what I'm saying? Would he be the starter at K-State? No. Would he be, you go almost through the entire Big 12 and say no to every one. Now, maybe he would start a couple places, so then translate that to everywhere. And, maybe a Vanderbilt could use him, or you just name a random school.
Mizzou.
Yeah, like a Mizzou, a Colorado, like those schools just mentioned. I could definitely see that, but I'm just, I don't think there will be a ton of schools that are in the market, is all I'm saying.
We have some national writers. Andy Staples from theathletic.com, who had a long, lengthy interview with Dave Aranda. Ross Dellinger, who has written articles about Dave Aranda and Baylor, and also his thoughts about Mark Emmert, the NCAA commissioner, stepping down. We'll have something from him on that as well. And then also Jana Van Geitenbeek. She committed yesterday evening from Stanford to Baylor, and her story, she comes from a family of uncles and grandparents and mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers that have played sports all their lives at places like Yale, Princeton, Army, West Point. Her brother is stationed right now in Kuwait. We'll have her interview at 3:45. One other note, by the way, I did see this. Jordan Lewis, Baylor's Jordan Lewis, she was waived by Connecticut of the WNBA earlier today. So, Paul, can we open the lines up for this segment?
We can.
Straight up, it's about the quarterback decision with Dave Aranda and Baylor. It's not about Mark Emmert. It's not about the Rangers or the Cowboys of the NFL draft. It is about this decision. If you want to get on, we'd love to get your feedback. The number is 254-339-1122. Your thoughts and feedback on quarterback one, Blake Shapen, Gary Bohannon in the transfer portal, the Baylor quarterback room, and the decision itself. Sick 'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com in the Central Texas marketplace, just on the southern part of Waco off of I-35. My goodness, if you have bumps and bruises, your doctor's been talking to you, maybe even had x-rays, and you still don't know, or they don't know exactly what hurts. Whether it's they know, they can figure out by just looking maybe at a torn ACL, by how they can adjust the knee. But let's say it's something in your shoulder and they need an MRI. They want an MRI. And if any of your doctors ever mention MRI, you mention Ideal MRI. First of all, for a couple of different reasons. The number one reason is they've got a state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. They're going to find out what is the problem. They will see the evidence right there in front of them. They will send whatever they get to your doctor and to you as well and explain it. Number two, $497 is how much it will cost, or less. Every single time. Not buy one, get three free at $497. Every single MRI is $497 or less, and they will also help you with your insurance filings and help maybe alleviate even more of the cost. How about that? Money and you get an answer. IdealMRI.com.
Cars priced right both day and night. Average your car in Texas. Trucks built for you. Red, white, and blue. Average your car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room. Average your car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust. Average your car in Waco, Texas.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online, pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse.
Steakhouse. Full-service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
A couple more chat. Phone lines open, 254-339-1122, and a text we just received from the 817 let's see, I don't know what happened behind the scene, but to me, which I think no one is talking about, is the overlooked is how Aranda is looking out for his players and their best interest. No, we mentioned that almost off the top of the show. Missouri, Auburn, Northwestern are lead suitors for Gary Bohannon, according to our site. That's from Wild Cards.
Well, Auburn just takes any transfer.
Yeah, I was
going to
say, what the?
I mean, they've already got 6 of them.
UCF Fast, did you guys see articles about it's about something else completely different? We're trying to get to what this is about the quarterback decision. Does Shapen leave if Gary Bohannon is announced as a starter? Yeah, if they were to change their mind, I would think that that's a possibility as well.
Yeah,
now,
I think he would be in the transfer portal if the roles were reversed. It would be the same outcome most likely. And
I thought he was talking about if Gary was to come back and take over. No, they're not going to do. Yeah,
no. Why? He's the starting quarterback. He's not going to
say what you want about Dave Aranda. Wishy-washy is not a thing.
And somebody just made the comment a second ago. Don't pretend like it's not a big deal, and it's probably referring to me kind of downplaying the decision. I'm not pretending that it's not a big deal that he made this decision. I'm saying it's kind of sad that this has to be pointed out, like how good it was that he made the decision, because so many other coaches would have drugged this out and kept their players in limbo. That's what I'm saying. It's not a downplaying of Dave Aranda. It's an indictment on the rest of college football that our expectation is coaches would do the normal thing, which is to drag this out into the summertime. That was my point. It's not downplaying what Aranda did.
From Steven, by the way, Georgia Tech, UCLA, Boston College might be options as well. Oriented systems seem like could make some sense to me as well. From the 817, don't agree with the decision, but have to trust Coach Aranda that we defend the title with Shapen. But by the way, you guys are downplaying Gary. Anyway, you think he was 2 for 10 with 20 interceptions. No. 817, we are not. I just said a minute ago that one of the reasons they were in the Big 12 championship or in the position to do that was because of how he played at quarterback, although the strength of the team, like 19, was their defense, and last year they had incredible special teams as well. We're not saying he didn't have big games. We didn't say he hadn't helped them win games. That's not what we said. But in the bowl game against against Ole Miss, I believe it was 7 of 14 for 70 yards. We never have said that he was 2 for 10 and 20 yards and threw 5 picks.
That was, if you combine his rushing stats, he was actually 7 of 17 for 40 yards and then had another 20 on the ground, so he didn't even reach 70. But no, I think that there were some things that were great about his game, and I think there were some other things that were problematic. And untimely interceptions was one of those. And again, go back and look at the interception numbers over last year. That first half, it's clean. Completely blank slate. Go to the second half of the year, and it's nearly every game he's throwing a pick. So something's flipped, and I don't know if it was he got injured. There was talk about that he got injured at some point early on in the season, but it's kind of like you see that throw made in the spring game, and there was too many throws like that at times. And we can go game by game if you want to and go over the stats, but I don't think they're really going to play into your argument that he was as good as that we're downplaying him like he wasn't good. No, I think he was good, but I don't think he was great. I don't want to sit here and disparage Gary Bohannon, but I think there is a lot of room for growth, and look at the numbers. There's a lot of he was over a 70% completion percentage 3 times. 2 of those were in the first 3 weeks of the season against Kansas and Texas Southern. You want to go look at the numbers for the big games? Because there might have been some plays that he made. Oklahoma's a game that he played pretty well, especially in that first half. But there were a lot of other games where the numbers don't bear out very well for him. So, the Texas game, no touch, had like his rushing made up for his passing. If you look at strictly passing, it's not great. And I think that's where Blake Shapen edges him, is in that throwing game. with the best example being, that streak he was on, which we can't expect him to duplicate that too often, what he did against Oklahoma State before the injury. But I think there's a massive difference in the throwing factor when you put them next to each other.
Well, I'll just to repeat what I told you guys as we were walking out of the Sugar Bowl was I thought that was one of the best coached defensive games I've ever seen when the quarterback, in my opinion, almost played his way into the tight end room, because that game told me that they had a quarterback competition, because you could have put Shapen or Gary in the portal, but you could have put Shapen in the portal if you're Gary Bohannon if you go out and kick Ole Miss's ass. That's not what happened. So it made a quarterback competition where maybe there wouldn't have been one if he was – had a wider skill set, but he's still got a quarterback that can win games for people. And I said it the other day in the top 5, I think that Baylor's offense would be good enough either way with Shapen or Bohannon, but if Shapen gives you more opportunity, then that's what you do.
From the 770, Shapen is the right choice, primarily because of his ability to check down when the primary receiver isn't open. That's what makes him so effective. And I've read what Football Bob, Gary, I've read what Travis, I've read what Colt, I've read what a lot of people, Sam Bradshaw, and their decisions and their thoughts about this. And one of the things that I saw from Travis, who was very much in the Gary Bohannon, not camp, but very much entrenched with what he could do. We know that Shapen has a higher upside as a passer, but it's important to describe exactly how. 2 major things come to mind. This is from Travis Roeder from our site. He can better utilize solo matchups with Baylor's upperclassmen tight ends, Sims and Dabney. And 2, clear passing downs are no longer death for the offense. If it's 3rd and 14, doesn't mean you're going to convert it, because not many people do, but it means that you have a chance perhaps on occasion to overcome down and distance that gets away from you. Last year's team ran the ball like crazy, ran it effectively, always stayed ahead of the chains. Always did that, and on occasion, Gary was able to complete passes and also with his feet keep that also going. It's not as if he didn't convert huge 3rd downs. He did. But that defense was the difference, and a lot of people remember 2019, Charlie Brewer. Remember how much heat he took in 2020, and you look back at they won in 19 because it was the defense, and that's true too. But the quarterback still has to make some plays along the way. All right.
Let's go to Matt in D.C. Thanks for your call. You're on Sikkim 365 Radio.
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call today.
You're welcome.
I think everyone just needs to ask themselves, when we go into Oklahoma next year playing basically the 2013 Baylor offense with Jeff Lebby, which quarterback can throw us to 42, possibly the 5 points we're going to need to beat them? And if that's Blake Shapen, then let's roll with him. If it was Gary, it was going to be Gary. But let's not forget, if Shapen stays healthy in the Big 12 championship, I think we score over 30 points. There's no McPlay. We blow them out. And I think also, let's not forget in the Sugar Bowl, we only scored 14 offensive points after we knocked out Ole Miss's quarterback. If Ole Miss's quarterback doesn't get hurt, we're probably in a shootout with that game. And if Blake stayed healthy and he played in the Sugar Bowl, I don't even think this is a competition. Blake probably may have been named the starter or even leaned even more than Gary going into the offense if he stays healthy. So we got to go into UT. We got to go to BYU. We got to go to Oklahoma, possibly scoring 42, 45 points. And if Blake's the guy that can do it and they believe so, then that's what we got to roll with, guys. And I think now that the offensive line that can give you 2 to 3 seconds with a pocket passer will give us that opportunity to score a lot more points than just always having to rely on the defense. I'd like to get y'all's thoughts.
Matt, thanks for your call.
Yeah, I actually couldn't agree with that more. I mean, you've got to grow the offense. I think that Blake Shapen gives you the opportunity to grow it. I think Gary gives you the opportunity to keep it what it was, and that's good. But if the other offenses around you get better, then you put your defense at a little bit of a disadvantage.
Yeah, and you got young receivers. So I think, having a guy who can be accurate and can zip it in there and can throw with a lot of confidence is going to make a world of difference for those young guys. And I just felt at times that Gary wasn't always the most confident throwing the football, especially further down the field. So I do think in that aspect, as far as moving the chains and keeping it going and keeping it, up-tempo and all of that, I do think Shapen can get you into more of a groove than Bohannon can throwing the football. One of those drives where you just move down the field clinically. We haven't seen Shapen do that a ton. He's got limited drives as far as what we have to go back to look on. There's like 2.5 games worth of action, pretty much. That's all we saw. But I do think he can, maneuver it down the ball with it, or maneuver it down the field with his arm. better than Bohannon can based just on strictly what we've seen. And I do think there are going to be some shootout-type games. I expect Baylor's defense to still be very good, but I do think there are going to be some games where you're going to have to score 30 points to win that game. And quite frankly, I do have more confidence in Shapen's ability. Just their skill sets, all things equal, I do have more confidence in Shapen being able to throw them to a higher point total than I do Bohannon. But Bohannon, he did when he had his legs working. That was a dangerous element to his game that we didn't probably get to see the full display of. Oklahoma was a great example of what kind of damage he can do on the ground. But there were just a lot of games where that passing was just not quite what it needed to be.
All right, back to the calls. We have the interview in just a minute with the newest commit from Baylor women's basketball. We'll have that, but let's go to another couple of calls.
All right, Steven from Virginia. You are on Sickham's 365 Radio. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. The first thing I was thinking is that Blake Shapen has the ability to be a top 3 quarterback in the Big 12, and I don't think you can say that about Gary. So I definitely think this is an upside move. With no disrespect intended towards Gary Bohannon. We love Gary. I don't want Gary to feel any type of negative way towards Baylor. We love him here. But I also think that maybe the days of Bryce Petty and staying and waiting your turn are over, because I hope that Blake Shapen can be a multi-year starter without having to worry about Tyron Drones transferring and who's quarterback up after that. But that's just how the transfer portal era is, I guess. Later, guys.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it, Steven.
Yeah, I guess that is. We're over here talking about C.J. Rogers, we're talking about a walk-on and whether or not he's going to be available. So yeah, the transfer portal has made everything just so much dicier in terms of your depth and being able to hold on to your depth. And you're absolutely right. The days of a Bryce Petty waiting around for multiple years to finally get his crack. In this day and age, he would have left 2 years earlier than his career started, and he would have signed some random NIL deal with like a SEC school or something. But so those days are well over, and we can always appreciate Bryce Petty and even Seth Russell for sticking around as long as they did as well. But don't blame Bohannon one bit. And I'm with you, man. Nobody dislikes Gary. Nobody dislikes Gary. I think everybody was kind of taken aback by the announcement last night, or at least the report last night. And I think most everybody's first reaction who follows Baylor football was like, yeah, Shapen. Dang, that sucks for Gary.
Very much.
Yeah,
so.
And so nobody's celebrating other than probably the Shapen family and those, friends of his. But I think, for those people who also know Gary Bohannon, they're probably still a little bit down as well. So this isn't fun. It's fun from the standpoint that we now know some information that we've been waiting to know for quite a long time now, really since Blake Shapen got hurt. That's what was such a shame about the Sugar Bowl, was that we couldn't see them compete and see what would have happened had all things have been equal. Yeah. But we did get that in the spring to some extent, and now we know the answer.
Yeah, this sucks. It sucks because it's part of business, but it's also Gary Bohannon, remember, was in a quarterback competition with Jacob Zeno, who everyone thought was the next one at quarterback. Zeno's now at UAB. So he was also in the decision where he was chosen in a quarterback competition, and Zeno, of course, eventually moved out.
All right, one more call, and then we got to go to break. Chris in Missouri, thanks for your call.
Hey, guys, how you doing today?
Good. Great.
Hey, just a quick question. What do you guys think about him going to South Florida? If I look at their roster, I think they have a redshirt freshman at quarterback with a true freshman backing them up. So Bohannon can come in there with no real expectations, as Tampa would be a beautiful place to play in, that nice stadium, and it'd give him a chance to at least catch the eye of some of the scouts, for the Tampa Bay team while he's playing. Anyway, just my thought. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate it. Like I said before, I have no idea about the depth charts of most college programs. I'd be lying if I did. I know South Florida's coming off a very difficult season.
Yeah, I think anybody who's not sure at quarterback right now is an open candidate for Gary Bohannon to come in there. I'll tell you, whatever school gets him is going to get a quality young man. They're going to get somebody who's going to go live in that film room and weight room and is going to be a leader from the moment he steps on campus, even if he doesn't know anybody. You're going to get character out the wazoo with Gary Bohannon. I think he would be a tremendous addition, locker room wise, to any school that wants to pick him up, and especially if they need a starting quarterback. So long as you're not asking him to throw for 400 yards a game, I think, the right offense where he's more of a runner and doesn't have to do a ton of the passing game, I think he could be, really good for somebody. I think he could have been really good for Baylor, in that role. Like somebody said a second ago, if Gary Bohannon would have been chosen, we'd all be sitting here and be fine explaining why and would have understood it. So, either way, I think everybody was like, whoever it is, we're good. I think, if it's Bohannon, feel confident that they can win games. If it's Shapen, you feel confident that they can win games. It just so happens that it was Shapen, but I think Gary Bohannon can go somewhere else and he can win some games for you. Right. Absolutely.
And USF, Jeff Scott needs kind of an influx.
I'm looking. I'm trying to find. They have like 5 or 6 quarterbacks on the roster. I was looking them up. Again, I'm not be able to get to what I need to get to soon enough. But they have a lot of kids on the roster.
They may have a lot of kids. They don't have anybody who's a quarterback on a Big 12 championship team.
They don't, and that's why he has value, because of that, plus the fact that he's been through it, no question. All right, when we come back, she committed yesterday, Jana Van Geiten Beek. She is from Stanford, committed to Nikki Cowan and Baylor, and her story, including family that was, in fact, attached to World War II in Japan, and an amazing athletic program, a family and background and lineage. She's next on Sick on 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
At Allen Samuels, the new 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 has 2.9% for 72 months, plus $3,000 in bonus cash. All first responders get an extra $500 or take 0% for 72 months. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves. Today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop their huge new car and truck inventory.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott at edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Jana Van Geitenbeek, she joins us again on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. So, you know, this day and age of college sports, there's the transfer portal. There's so much going on. So can you kind of go over the process when you entered the portal and how quickly did you connect with Baylor?
Yeah, when I entered the portal, it kind of like everything went really fast. I got reached out to by a lot of wonderful people and places. So that was really great. And then Baylor reached out, you know, on that first day. And then we just got like the relationship building and stuff like that.
So you commit to them. What was it like to get that out of the way? What did it mean to you and the emotions with it?
Yeah, it felt really exciting. I feel very lifted and happy. I'm just really excited and grateful for this experience and opportunity that I get to have now.
Were you recruited by Baylor when you were in Colorado?
I was not. I committed pretty early to Stanford as a sophomore, and so I didn't really go through the process. But yeah.
So you made a trip here, right?
Yes, I took a visit.
What were your thoughts about just the campus? I know Stanford is a gorgeous, incredible place to be a student athlete or a student or anything, but your thoughts about the trip to Baylor and your what you enjoyed the most?
What I enjoyed the most was the people, for sure. I mean, the way that they communicated and interacted with each other was just like so beautiful to me. They immediately made me feel like I was at home, and I just felt the love. It was great. That was definitely my favorite part.
Reading what you do, which is shoot the ball, your thoughts about the new offensive style when Nikki took over, Coach Mulkey now at LSU, and she implemented this style that obviously shoots the ball much more from the outside. How much did that come into play with your decision?
The offensive philosophy comes into my decision pretty heavily. I think that Coach Nikki is an incredible coach and is just like knows what offense to run, knows what defense to run, knows like just dependent on who her players are. And I think that like her ability to adapt and use her strengths is super helpful and makes me really confident in her.
You were a five-star player. You mentioned committing early as a sophomore in high school to Stanford, and of course the history at Stanford. You were part of a national championship team as well. You haven't been able to play as much as perhaps people would think. Is that just obviously because how deep Stanford has been? Is it just not worked out?
Stanford is super deep. All of my teammates are insane basketball players. They're so good. I think a lot of that depth made us have to be flexible and just like stay ready for when we would go in or when we would have our shot. But yeah, I mean, we're a really great team, and like my teammates are incredible, and you know, we made it to the Final Four, so it's like no complaints.
What's it like to be a part of an NCAA championship?
It's unreal. It doesn't even feel real when they talk about it. Sometimes I'm like, wow, we really did that last year. It feels amazing to know that, like, you know, especially in a COVID year, how hard it was that year and how close our team got. It was just something really special, and it felt really great.
Did you ever at all reach out to Dejanay Carrington? She was a Stanford transfer that played at Baylor and obviously had a tremendous run, now a part of the WNBA.
Yeah, I reached out to Dejanay when I went on my visit. I just told her like that I was there and whatnot, and she's been really great. She's a good role model.
So I heard, this is interesting, your family, my goodness, you talk about athletes, they're everywhere. Your father, your mother, Colorado Softball Hall of Fame. Your dad played at Regis University, also at the minor league level. Your uncle was a gymnast at Brigham Young. Keep going, right? Another uncle, track and field, Colorado State. Another one was at Western State College, an alpine ski racer. Your brother played baseball at West Point, and your sister played softball at Yale. You had no chance but to be an athlete, right?
Yeah, it just runs in the family. I love sports. We're all really competitive. My parents are great role models for that, and just as people, so are my sister and brother. So I've been really lucky.
And I don't mean to leave out your grandfather, Peter, played football and baseball at Princeton. We're talking about some major, unbelievable, not only sports, but academic institutions, West Point, Yale, obviously Princeton. You were at Stanford. You're coming to Baylor. How much of a standard did you know that you not had to live up to, but you knew what the standard was?
Yeah, my family is really big on academics first, and then, well, actually probably being a good person first, and then academics. I knew I had, expectations from my family, but also I always have their support no matter what. So that's good to lean back on.
Your brother, is he stationed overseas?
He is. He's currently in Kuwait.
What's that like?
I don't get to talk to him much, but I know that it was his dream to do this, and I'm really proud of him, and I'm super happy for him.
Awesome. I'm a military brat from way back, obviously. My dad was a Naval Academy graduate, so I like connected to that as well. Your grandmother, 100% Japanese, from Okinawa. I lived in Japan, Jana, from 1972 to 76, before my senior year in high school. My dad was military, lived in Japan, and actually played a football game in Okinawa, which is where she was from.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, and that's so unique. But she has a story. She was there during a very, very obviously difficult time during World War II. Is that correct?
Uh-huh.
What's the story about where she lived?
She lived in a cave for 3 years.
She lived in a cave?
Yes.
Does that also help you realize how fortunate not only you are, but we are with what we
Absolutely. Have? Yeah. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine living in a cave for like 2 days.
I'm not sure I would ever want to go in there for a few hours, much less, and I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm kind of claustrophobic. Did you ever sit down and talk with her about that?
We've talked a little bit about it. Something that my dad wants to do is write a book on it and just really hear her stories. I've heard a couple crazy ones, but I definitely want to take more time to learn about it.
That's awesome. Your family, the background, it's incredible. And then what you've done as well. So what are the plans? When do you finish out your semester at Stanford? And then when do you arrive in Waco?
My semester ends early June, and then I'll go straight to Baylor. I'll go straight to Waco.
What has Coach Collin and staff said to you about your role and also being a part of this roster?
Yeah, I think they expect me to come in and work really hard. Just like I want to, and I know that they have faith in me. I'm just really excited to work as hard as I can and make Coach Nikki proud.
You have a smile on your face?
Yes.
You can almost sense it. Just to have this out of the way, you can move on, finish up your grades at a great place, and come to another great place. Jana, thanks for your time. We appreciate it. I know you got class to get to, and look forward to covering you.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too. Jana Van Geitenbeek, new player at Baylor University from Stanford. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love love with Rudy's Tasty Oak Smoked Barbecue.
Next in line.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma. And they have to come here. They're used to lights. They're used to water in their mouth. They're used to experience. They already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers, everybody, the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Blitz coming. Pitched up. Prescott unloading. End zone. Touchdown.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Between now and the rest of the show up until 6, we have a couple of national college writers, Ross Dellinger, SI.com, and also Andy Staples, theathletic.com, and we will discuss the Baylor quarterback decision, but also college football in general as well. And we're now joined by Charean Williams, yet another of the names and people who deservedly so will be inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, Media Wing Hall of Fame. We've heard from John McClain, Brad Sham, Randy Galloway, and now Charean Williams, Pro Football Talk and a longtime columnist who's covered the NFL. Charean, what does this mean to you?
Well, I think it ranks right up there. There's a couple other honors, obviously, going into the Pro Football Hall of Fame when you win the now newly named Bill Nunn Award, I think is the greatest accomplishment. And it opened up everything else, all the other awards. So being voted that by your peers is pretty remarkable. And then that opens up everything else that's happened. But this ranks right up there, being a native Texan and having spent most of my career here, started my career here, went to college here, all of those things, it makes it special to go into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame. And it is amazing how that thing has expanded. We were talking about that the other day with a friend of mine. Like, the first time you went in there, you're like, yeah, that's kind of disappointing, right? And now it's just so great, everything they've done to that facility, and it just made it outstanding. For anyone who hasn't been in there, I mean, it truly is a one-of-a-kind state sports museum that's just remarkable. And I could spend hours in there even now, having been in there so many times.
Shireen, is one of the secrets to your longevity and success the fact that you really enjoy what you do? And outwardly, I don't think I've been in press boxes with you many times at Cowboys games. I don't think I've ever seen anybody enjoy being a sports writer outwardly as much as you do.
That's one of the nicest things I've heard, and I appreciate that. And I do think you have to enjoy it. I mean, everybody thinks it's just going to games and having a good time. And I have covered 7 Olympic games and almost 30 Super Bowls. And you know, that part of it is fun, and that's what everybody sees and says is a great job. But, you know, there's other things that go into it that aren't quite so much fun. And I don't know that the draft this weekend is going to be great fun. It's just so much work. And on deadline very quickly, so you can't digest everything like you would like to. But, you know, there are certainly worse jobs to have and to do, and this one I would say isn't really a job as much as it is most of the time. It's a lot of fun, and you should have fun when you're going to the games and hanging out in the press box and getting paid to cover games. I mean, that is fun. So yeah, I would say you're probably right on there, Paul, that it is the love of the game that has kept me going back and back and back year after year after year, and continuing to do this and have a good time. And if it ever gets old, I guess it's like an athlete, you know, when it's time to retire, and I'm not quite there yet.
I know you're close to a lot of the others who are being inducted, but you and John McClain have an incredible, lengthy trust relationship, and you've traveled when you've gone to these events. We went to lunch on the Hudson River with you to get the lobster rolls. How much does it make it even more special that he's going in with you at the same time?
Yeah, you know, there's several. Obviously, I've spent a lot of time with Brad Sham, and then Randy Galloway was my coworker for so long, so they're pretty special to me too. But you're right. I grew up reading John McClain when I was a kid, and I'll never forget the first time I went up to him. It was at an AFC championship game, and I don't remember exactly which one. I want to say it was Pittsburgh. He always tells people it was Buffalo, but I never covered one of those championship games at Buffalo, so I know it wasn't Buffalo. But it was one of the AFC championship games, and I went up to him and told him that I had grown up reading him and that he was a hero of mine, and I wanted to be just like him and do it for a really long time. And he kind of took me under his wing like he's done so many other reporters, and we became fast friends. And that's my best friend in the business and a mentor to me, and I know he feels the same. So very grateful. If he wasn't going in, I would have him present me, and if I wasn't going in at the same time, I know he would have me present him. And I was proud to get to present him at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. That was pretty darn special to be able to do that. So yes, we have a special relationship. I'm sad that he's retired because I do enjoy traveling with him and getting to eat out and all the things that we get to experience on the road that makes this job so much fun. But hopefully we see him around and he's still involved in the NFL and in the coverage of the NFL.
Yeah, what's he doing retiring before the Vegas draft? I mean,
yeah, right. Exactly.
Doing? But speaking of the draft, Shireen, your thoughts on the Cowboys at 24? What do you think they need to do?
Well, you know, they need to address that offensive line. It wasn't that long ago that we were talking about this as one of the best offensive lines in football, and it's not that anymore. As anyone who's watched the Cowboys knows that. And now you've lost Lyle Collins, who was your, right tackle who you groomed to play there and be an all-pro there, and he never quite developed into that. And injuries, unfortunately, the last couple of years and suspensions have took him out of their lineup, and he eventually wasn't worth the money that they were going to pay him for this season. So we'll see what Terrence Steele is. I thought he did okay there last year, but I don't know if he's a long-term answer there. And now you have an opening at left guard, and they have Connor McGovern penciled in there, and I just don't know that he's going to be the answer there. I thought he struggled a little bit when he replaced Connor Williams, and Connor Williams struggled when he was there. So, you look at a guy like as Zion Johnson from Boston College, the guard, or obviously Kenyon Green is who I would like to see go there, the Aggie. And I know the Cowboys love Kenyon Green. They do. And so I would expect it to be one of those two guys. I would expect them to draft a lineman, whether that's offensive or defensive lineman there at that position. Maybe one of the Georgia defensive linemen. Both of those guards are gone. Maybe one of the Georgia defensive linemen is still there at that point, and that's who they take. But, Bill Parcells always said, you have to have the quarterback, and then the next thing you have to have is strong lines, offensive line, defensive line. And I don't know that the Cowboys have that right now. And you could certainly go defensive line, and I think strengthen that defensive line. Dante Fowler is not the answer there. Dorrance Armstrong is not the answer there. I'll say that. And maybe it's going to be old takes exposed, but I don't think either one of those guys is the answer. Now you're putting it all on DeMarcus Lawrence, who really hasn't lived up to that contract. They redid the contract a little bit this year, but he hasn't lived up to that contract and what he did the 2 years before that when he made the Pro Bowl team to get that contract.
Shireen, do you think some of the consternation on the part of Cowboys fans is warranted in terms of what they have or have not done this offseason?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And I just don't think they're a better team right now than they were at this time last year or when the season ended last year. I think they've gotten worse, at least on paper. And I realize there's ways to get better. I mean, this time last year, we didn't know that Micah Parsons was going to be Micah Parsons. And maybe they get lucky and get a player like that who instantly becomes an all-pro player, Zach Martin. And they have drafted. Look, they've drafted really, really well over the last few years. They have, since 2010, I think it is, they have more all-pro players, more Pro Bowl players that they've drafted in the first round than any other team. They've drafted really well. And so I get that. They expect to have a starter out of this first round who's going to step right in and play, and that's great. But that fills one position. You still have a ton of positions there that I just don't think you're better at. I mean, you look at the receiver position. I like James Washington, but he's not as good as Amari Cooper. So now you're counting on CeeDee Lamb to be your number one receiver without Amari Cooper there to take away some of the defense and what they do with Amari Cooper. So, Randy Gregory, the guys they have on the roster right now are not Randy Gregory. A lot of holes to fill. They still need help at linebacker. I mean, just look all across the board. What's going to happen with Kelvin Joseph? They could even go corner in this draft early because you don't know what's going to happen with Kelvin Joseph. Is he going to be suspended for how long? Is he never going to play for you again? All those questions I know they don't have answers to. So, yes, I agree with Cowboys fans that when you look at this thing on paper, they're not there. I like them to win the NFC East. I still think they're the most talented team in the NFC East. But when you compare them to the Bucs and the Rams and maybe even the Cardinals and the Packers, to me, they're not contenders with those teams.
Shireen, how difficult has this offseason been with some of the alternate stories outside of the organization or within the organization that are not football related?
I think it's been like that in the NFL. And, it's been the year of the scandal in the NFL with the Cowboys. And I don't care what anybody says. It's distracting for teams when they go through these things. The Washington Commanders, for instance, what they're going through. The Raiders last year was amazing to me. Rich Bisaccia deserves all the credit in the world for what he was able to do with the Raiders and deserves a chance to be a head coach. Because everything they went through, they still made the postseason. It's difficult when you have all those issues. And the Cowboys are fortunate that they weren't playing a game when all of their issues have come out. And by August, September, maybe we will have forgotten some of these things. Kelvin Joseph, maybe he'll have dealt with whatever is going on there, and there's an outcome to his situation, whatever that may be. As far as him playing, I realize that there was a death involved here, and I'm not downplaying that at all. I get it. I'm just saying in relation to his on-field status. But, a lot of things have gone on this offseason within the NFL, within the Cowboys, and maybe we start talking about football. We're going to talk about the draft the next 3 days, and then probably some of these other topics are going to come up the rest of the offseason, and hopefully when we get to the football season in September, we're just talking about things on the field.
Shireen, what do you think of Jacksonville's position there at number one? I know there's been some debate, even maybe a new name kind of emerging there for them. What do you think they ultimately end up doing, and do you think it should be this difficult of a decision for them?
It just just a wild year. It's the most, I've done this since 1994. This is the most unusual year I've ever experienced. And it's because you don't have the quarterbacks at the top of the draft board. Myles Garrett, of course, was the last defensive lineman to go number 1 overall. And it certainly looks like the Jaguars are going that direction. Who that's going to be, I think probably Travon Walker or Aiden Hutchinson. I would bet on Aiden Hutchinson, but I know Walker is the betting favorite in Vegas to go number 1 overall. And then what if they do something else? What if they go offensive line and suddenly they've thrown a curveball to this draft? But I'll say one thing: quarterbacks, always go earlier than people think they should. So in other words, you may have these quarterbacks rated way down that none of them should be first round draft picks. Maybe they should be into the first round. They're going to go higher than what you expect them to go. It always happens. And when that first guy goes, the other teams in need of a quarterback start to panic. So I think you're probably going to see one go at least in the top 10, at least one of them go in the top 10, maybe, probably shouldn't. But it's what happened with the Blaine Gabberts and Josh Rosens and all those guys who we didn't anticipate going in the top 10, shouldn't have gone in the top 10, but they do. And then other teams in need of a quarterback start to panic. So that's going to change this draft dramatically. Once that first quarterback goes, I think you're going to see a little bit of panic set in for those teams that need a quarterback and want a quarterback out of the first round of this draft. So we've got to make a move to go get that quarterback. And I think we're going to see 3 quarterbacks. You may see one, it may be 32. But remember, that's where Lamar Jackson was drafted. The Ravens traded into that spot because they want that 5th-year option. If they're in the first round, 32nd overall, you get that 5th-year option. So that's another spot to look at. It might not be the Lions, but I think you're going to see a quarterback go at number 32.
Shireen, do you expect any? I don't during the first day because sometimes you got to weigh that out. But Deebo Samuel, who I don't think a lot of people think is really going to get traded, this is about money, or maybe like Saquon Barkley. Do you expect to see any big names get traded over the weekend?
I don't, because I agree with you. Those are the big names, and I just don't see the 49ers parting ways with Deebo Samuel unless somebody just blows them away with the deal they can't refuse. And I just don't know that they're going to get that. And so, Saquon Barkley, nobody wants that contract. I just don't see that there's going to be a big deal like that go down. And, maybe Baker Mayfield, maybe third day of the draft, the Browns say, look, if we cut him, he's going to go to the Steelers. We don't want him going to the Steelers. Let's just give him away to Carolina or whoever didn't come up with the quarterback in this draft. And let's get him to the NFC and move on and wash our hands of him. We'll pick up, a big chunk of that $18 million that he's due. They're probably going to have to take about $17 million of that because if they cut him, that's what they would have to take on. So, he may be the guy when we talk about big names. Baker Mayfield may be the one guy to watch in this draft at some point. Again, it might be third day because they're not going to get much for Baker Mayfield because everybody knows they're going to cut him if they can't trade him. And the Browns don't want to cut him because he's going to head straight for Pittsburgh, or they're afraid he's going to head straight to Pittsburgh if that happens.
Shireen, thank you very much. Congratulations. We appreciate your time. Congratulations on the honor coming up on May 21st. Craig, you have anything else for her as well? But thanks for your time. Good luck covering the draft, and we'll get you on again soon, but we'll see you May 21st.
Thank you, Smokey. Thank you, guys.
Shireen Williams, Pro Football Talk columnist, writer, has covered the NFL, is part of the NFL Hall of Fame. She and John McClain won that award that she mentioned as well. And that's May 21st. If you are anywhere around, and yes, it's the Texas Sports Hall of Fame, but the names that are a part of it. And like John said, he feels like he's the only one representing the entire state of Texas because everybody else is connected to Dallas. They are in every way. And so that comes up again, Texas Sports Hall of Fame, right there basically on the entrance into the Baylor campus, right there off of I-35 and University Park.
Well, what I said about Shireen is very true, in that she really enjoys my favorite parts of running into Shireen at games is when you go to a Cowboys game, you got to get there early to park and beat the traffic. So if it's a 3:00 kick, you're there and you get to watch all the noon games. So sitting in the dining area watching all the noon games with her is fun, so much so that I think NFL Network should hire her to do a Manning type broadcast of all the teams, and you just get to watch Shireen get so excited about everything that's going on around because she really does enjoy it.
I think that we a lot of times, no matter what you do for a living, perhaps you probably need to hear what you were just mentioning about enjoying what you do, because sometimes I think we get stuck in a rut, we take things for granted, or we just don't like what we're doing. And luckily, we have enjoyed what we've done here for the last. Doesn't mean we haven't had tough days, but we have. But yeah, it's great that she enjoys what she's doing and enjoys what she covers as well. Here's a tweet. I wanted to bring this one up, and this is interesting. If the Shapen report is true, not yet verified by Baylor, it is true. I am shocked and disappointed. I completely trust Aranda and Bell. But this one surprises me greatly. Hurt for GB. Dude gave it all for Baylor and more. Everything you want in a Baylor Bear. This doesn't feel right by him. Then I'm sure he received some responses. Allow me to reiterate, clarify something. I love and trust my coach completely. Aranda is all class with us with this. Coach Bell has been a big brother and friend of me for me since 5 years old. No shade from me to the Baylor coaching staff. I just love Gary Bohannon and want him under center.
Who's this?
It's somebody who was on my Twitter feed.
Okay.
That mentioned that. And hey, this isn't easy. It's not easy. A lot of people may have written the same thing about Jacob Zeno back when they made the decision about Gary Bohannon.
Yeah, I mean, look, I get it. I'm bummed out for Gary Bohannon too, but it ain't a funeral. Like nobody's dead. Gary Bohannon can still play football. He can still go play football somewhere else. He can play football at Baylor if he wants to. So yeah, I mean, I get the disappointment. I definitely do not agree with those few who I've seen go, oh, well, this is the wrong decision. I think you have no idea when you say that. Yeah, because you have no more insight than the coaches do. And if you really believe that Dave frickin' Aranda and Jeff Grimes and Sean Bell are, making the wrong decision, then I don't think there's anything that any of us are going to say that are going to convince you otherwise. But I know that I trust those guys more than I trust the opinion of any fan out there, no matter the fan base. So if that's who they chose to ride with, then I'm going to trust that they made the right choice, and I believe they made the right choice if that's the conclusion that they came to. But I totally understand being disappointed for Gary. But look, folks, this is just part of college football. Like, guys transfer. Baylor, this is not the first transfer Baylor's had. I mean, they've had multiple guys, and, I understand that Gary's just a little bit more personal, though, for people. But R.J. Sneed left, and there was maybe an hour of people going, oh, that sucks. All right, on to the next guy. So, Gary clearly
was a great kid.
He was a great player and did everything. And there's tons of other guys who have left as well. I mean, Charlie Brewer basically gave his life out there, and people just cursed and hissed and kicked him on the way out, despite the fact that he gave every ounce that he had. So obviously Gary made a difference for people in that they love him. And I get that, but there's a lot of other guys who got far less of a glorious exit who still put a lot of work in as well. It's just part of the deal, and we can all be sad about it, but look, he's fine. He's healthy. He can play quarterback and he can play football, and I'm sure he will.
And the other thing I think they need to realize with Gary going in, this is only 6 or 7 guys in the Aranda era that he's lost to the portal that you would maybe want back. And, I mean, they haven't lost hardly any total. His retention rate is unbelievable. So
that's really a story that we have, in fact, covered at times based on what we've said, but you're exactly right. And Andy Staples, who's going to join us at 5, interviewed him, and a lot of what you hear from Dave Aranda is what Dave Aranda, the trust and relationship with players. Now, that doesn't mean Gary's feelings aren't hurt.
Of course.
That doesn't mean he's not disappointed. If he wasn't, then he wouldn't be who we think he is or who we know he is. But, yeah, I think what you mentioned, the lack of a lot of transfers has a lot to do with the relationship. But eventually it comes down to numbers, positions, and other opportunities for others who don't have it at Baylor.
So what I'm saying is because of his retention rate here at Baylor, that means that everything he's doing is pretty darn good. So most of the guys that are going into the portal are going in because that's the absolute last resort for them to start or go somewhere.
Well, here's the thing, too. If Gary Bohannon had been named the starter, I'll repeat this, Blake Shapen would be in the portal today, and that's who we'd be talking about. Mm-hmm. So either way, somebody's leaving. So, you can feel like maybe the wrong guy's leaving, and that's fine. But again, I'll trust Dave Aranda and Jeff Grimes and Sean Bell who work with these guys on a daily basis, have seen every practice, every minute, have reviewed film of practices, have watched game film multiple times, have done all of those different things. They know better than anybody. And the last thing Dave Aranda is going to do is make this team worse. I mean, what would be the logic in him choosing Blake Shapen over Gary Bohannon if they did not think Blake Shapen was going to win them more games? What logic would there be there?
Yeah.
There's absolutely none. So they clearly chose who they thought was the better quarterback, bottom line.
When we come back, Ross Dellinger, SI.com, I originally contacted him about the Mark Emmert story, leaving the NCAA in about a year. There are some skewering columns about Mark Emmert. I mean, no one that I know of, maybe not, I don't know, I'm going to say that family, really suffered from this decision. And that's not being fair, but it's probably being fair. Ross Dellinger, I contacted him about Mark Emmert, but he also knows Dave Aranda very well on the decision-making as well. And then Andy Staples, who had a lengthy interview with him, like 30 minutes or so long, his thoughts about Dave Aranda, all of that and more. Sick 'em, 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels has a huge new car and truck inventory in stock right now. And as you know, some dealerships struggle with that. And it's not their fault. It's part of the distribution, although things are picking up. The brands that win awards year after year, the truck, Ram truck, back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year. And speaking of Ram, the 1500 Lone Star 22 model, quad cab, total values up to $6,500 or get $3,000 in bonus cash. And on top of that, 2.9% financing for 72 months. The 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3, 2.9% for 72 months, plus $3,000 bonus cash. And first responders on all of what I mentioned get an extra $500 in savings as well. So shop for performance and style, durability, perfect for your family, whatever you need, they have it. Go to Ted Teague, he's the general manager, and his great staff. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitsche Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitsche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitsche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitsche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the city of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including barre, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves. Probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Ross Denlinger, SI.com. He's joined us on many occasions, most of the time always about college football or college athletics. He joins us. I had spoken or sent a text to Ross about the Mark Emmert story. But, Ross, I want to start with Dave Aranda and the decision at quarterback with Blake Shapen over Gary Bohannon. You know him well. You've interviewed him very well, and so have we. He was doing, obviously, another player a favor, at the same time making the decision that's best for his program.
Yeah, for sure. And it's kind of a rarity that we see these days for a coach to kind of take the risk, right? Dave is taking a risk. You always want, your backup quarterback to be pretty solid and strong, and you don't want him to leave. And a lot of times we see coaches, not make a decision on a quarterback competition until the very end of fall camp, where it's too late for a backup to potentially leave. So the fact that Dave did it did it a week before the May 1 deadline, provides Bohannon a chance to get into the portal in before that May 1 deadline and be able to play immediately. So it's a great decision. I wish we'd have more of them, but I know sometimes the competition is close enough where you just don't have that. But for Dave to do what he did is impressive. And like I said, I wish it would happen a little more.
Ross, with the news of Mark Emmert leaving the NCAA, which was met with nothing but applause. I mean, I don't think anybody was sad to see him go out the door, but what does the new president have to be able to do, given that we really don't know what the structure of that job is going to be with the new governance rules and everything else going forward?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, immediately after Mark Emmert's announcement, everybody wants to have a list of potential candidates and who could replace him and all this stuff, when really we should be not asking who, but what. What is the job? What does the job entail? What is the NCAA at that point next year? Transformation Committee is working on a lot of moves that that could potentially change how we legislate college sports and could change the power and authority of the NCAA. But what we're going to see is the NCAA, be more and more relevant. Their authority for over years now, right, has been kind of chipped away by litigation and legal challenges in the conferences. The conferences have more power and authority. So you've seen Washington State President Kirk Schultz come out and remove his name for candidacy for the NCAA president. Greg Sankey did the same thing, which of course that was laughable. He's in much more powerful position in the SEC. That's just the way it is now. Conference leaders and even school leaders are in a lot better position than the NCAA president. Why would you go to a job if you have a nice, cushy job, especially one with a lot of authority and power? Why would you go to one that's losing power and authority and go to a entity that might not be around in just a few years?
Ross, to that point, how desirable is this job for someone out there? I mean, Greg Sankey, like you said, that'd be a massive step down for him. But how much of a step up does it look like for maybe some others out there that could be interested?
Well, I think that there obviously are some that might be interested in the job. And I know Baylor's president has she was on one of those many click me lists that you see of names just kind of thrown against the wall. And but I don't really know how attractive the job is for a variety of reasons, because like I said earlier, you don't know if the NCAA is even going to be around, you don't know how long it's going to be around, how much longer it's going to be around. You don't know what it's going to do, what its authority is, what it's going to be presiding over. And so, but I'm sure there are quite a bit of people that would be interested. First of all, it pays really well. Like Mark Emmert made around, I think, $2.5 to $3 million a year. So it certainly pays well. It pays more than like a college president job at most places, I would think. So it does pay well, but I'm not sure there are a whole lot of other attractive things about the job. Right now the NCAA oversees the enforcement of rules that were made by its members and puts on championship events, basically, and kind of oversees the legislation. And you just see things get pulled from under it. They're not going to oversee legislation anymore. It's going to go to the conferences. The enforcement might be something pulled from them. So the NCAA, when we get down to it, are they just going to be a body that puts on championships? And if that's the case, do we need them? Certainly those are questions being asked.
Ross, the story as well, we knew the Big 12 was going to expand with Brigham Young, and of course the timeline with Texas and Oklahoma remains up in the air, whether it's all the way through 24-25. But now the story, and this is something the American Football Conference has been working on, kind of quiet about it, but Cincinnati, Houston, and UCF will be joining, it appears, the Big 12 starting in 2023, excuse me. I don't think this is a surprise. Is this also for the American Football Conference a chance for them to move on and do what they need to do?
Yeah, it is. And this has been, as you said, not very surprising. I think everybody, and I believe even some athletic directors like at Houston and UCF, I've been on the record the last few weeks saying, our expectation is trying to get in for 2023. And so I think we're just coming down to the final days of negotiation where a deal, it feels like it's going to be done within a week or so over the next week. And that'll open the door for Cincinnati and UCF and Houston to join the Big 12 starting in 2023. And it's kind of a domino effect for the American, which is grabbing, 6 members, I think, from Conference USA to come over in 2023 there as well. So you gotta have the domino of the AAC teams going to the Big 12 to fall before you have the other one. I think we're going to see that happen in the next, 5 to 10 days. I think that'll happen. There's a May 1 deadline, I believe, for some things that need to happen. I don't exactly know the specifics of the May 1 deadline, but I believe the AAC, the Conference USA teams need to notify Conference USA, I believe, by May 1 if they're going to be on the move in 2023 to the Americans. So that's kind of what's happening. So everybody's kind of working, I believe, off that deadline. And then, of course, this opens up a bigger question. Is OU and Texas going to really, especially Texas, are they really going to remain in the Big 12 for 2 years with these new members, specifically Houston? You can just imagine Texas having to go and play Houston in a conference road game and then, host Houston the next year. It's just hard to wrap your mind around that, Texas being okay with that. So I'm kind of in the mindset that maybe they're in the conference with these new teams for a year, 2023, but maybe they get out a year early, which is still going to be costly, but you never know. There might be some wiggle room at some point there where they can do that and join the SEC in 24.
Ross, can you imagine the scheduling nightmare that it will be over the couple years to make all of it work of teams coming in and out based on the way that college football schedules in the past of 20 years in the future?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's going to be really interesting, and it'll be a hot topic this coming week. I'm heading out to Phoenix for the Big 12 meetings are there along with some other conferences, and so there'll be a lot of administrators. I know this is like the top, the main issue that they'll be discussing is future scheduling and the 14-team schedule and how it will look. The division will have divisions. Will be, well, how many games will you play? How do you determine the championship participants? So I know it's going to be a big topic of discussion.
It's amazing, Ross, what we've seen. NIL, transfer portal, and now all the conference realignment, which we've seen before, but it just seems like every damn day. It's something. It's great for us and good for you as well, but it just seems like there's something every single, not maybe day, but every week when it comes to college athletics, and then the Mark Emmert thing now just kind of lands on top of it.
That's right. I was busy yesterday chasing news on the Transformation Committee that revealed some of their concepts that they've been working on, which are pretty significant. And while trying to chase all that down, the Mark Emmert news dropped it. There's no real off season anymore in college sports and in college football. You just don't have it like you used to, where in the past, covering college football was not a year-round thing. I would have covered basketball and then moved on maybe even to something else. It's just not the case anymore. You got to stay on it a year-round, and it's kind of like football recruiting these days, also year-round.
Thank you, Ross. Appreciate it. Ross Dellinger, SI.com, with us on Mark Emmert on the Big 12, and again, that's a story we haven't even been able to get to, which is a huge deal. And one of the reasons we exploded as a show for you on YouTube is what we have with Brigham Young. We knew would be joining the conference no matter what Texas and Oklahoma do in 2023. And now we know that as well with what UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston are going to be able to do. What it appears as if get out of their deal at the American Conference and start that same year, which means the Big 12 will most likely have 14 teams starting not this season, but next.
Yeah, I'm curious if this does hurry up the exit of Oklahoma and Texas to some extent. Obviously, doubtful that they would be out by 23, but could they get out there after 23? I guess that's, potentially there. I know that based on their fan base's reactions, they're too good for the icky new schools coming in, these lowlifes coming in. So, if it was up to the fan bases, they'd have paid that price and already be on to the elite of the SEC. But they might have to, wrestle with the lowlifes there for a year or two and go to the SEC, I guess, and then, the year after or something like that. But it does appear as though we'll get 1 year of crossover, and I think that'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that doesn't force the exit quicker.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like, I'm sure it does, but I don't think it's going to and I have no information to base this on, but I just assume that we're going to probably get a year of that. Yes. I don't think they're going to leave after this season is what I'm saying. Right. So if that means that they would have at least 1 year to play the BYUs and the Cincinnatis, et cetera. And so, I would think they'd probably exit quickly after that, but there's going to probably be a year where they have to, you have to tangle with the newcomers.
All it's going to take is one loss in Orlando, Cincinnati, or Houston for Texas to be like, all right, whatever it takes. So look, you can have all the money you want. We can't go to Orlando and lose again.
No question. By the way, Big 12 meetings are next week. They will be discussing that 14-team conference and how they'll figure out the schedule, divisions, no divisions, 8 teams, 9 games. How many games? They're playing 9 now with 10 because everybody plays each other. So that will be interesting, at least the possibility of 1 year, maybe 2, with all the 4 new teams along with Texas and Oklahoma as well, at least not next year, not this coming season, but 2023.
Yeah, and I feel like we did talk about that, right? Like we were talking about that months ago, the possibility of that.
All day,
yeah.
it seemed like
so,
every day.
Like
yeah.
it's not really new news. I guess it's just new that it's actually happening is what's actually happening. Because, yeah, we've definitely discussed them coming in at that time period, but now that it's basically official, I am curious of how that tips over certain dominoes. OU, Texas being a couple of the big ones, and then, yeah, the scheduling piece and how all that's going to be worked out. And the fact that, if they do stick around for at least a year, if not 2, then you're going to have to do it all over again once they leave, basically, unless you just split them up, and that way you just subtract 1 from both divisions and you're still set. But, yeah, we'll have to see how they figure all that out.
Our good friend Tony Altimore made this comment. By the way, how about using the year of 14 teams as a test run, so to speak, before adding anybody else down the road to see how it works? And Tony, great, always great to have you. Enjoy you and your feedback. The chat room, the text line, 254-339-1122. We appreciate you.
It's all going to coincide. I mean, pretty much this next 2-year period, folks, of not only, new schools and realignment taking over, but then, of course, you're going to have and a little distraction here, but you got all these TV contracts coming up as well. So, yeah, the 23, 24, 25, that whole stretch. And even right now in 22, the remainder of the year is going to be a lot of uncertainty, but we'll get answers, and those answers will be quite interesting one way or the other.
Derwake, I hope Texas, Oklahoma leave, pay us all that big money exit fee. Well, most likely there's going to be some fees, and there's going to be some big money no matter when. But also, what if they end up liking the new Big 12? No, they're liking the money that they know they're going to get and guaranteed to get with the SEC, and it's going to be a hell of a lot more than they get from the Big 12.
They might, on the off chance, like it, but they love where they're going already.
Yeah,
I mean, it's...
No, they're too good for the Big 12 now. They've made that very clear, and the money talks. And like anything in college athletics, and this is something John McClain taught me a long time ago, or in the NFL, in pro sports in general, anytime there's some disagreement or big dust-up or whatever, follow the money, and there's your answer, there's your info, there's all that. And that's what OU and Texas are going to do. They're going to follow that money. That's what's most important, and that's why they're going to be, not having any concerns about any sort of realignment ever again, because they'll be, rock solid in the SEC, and I totally get that. But yeah, everything's about the money, ultimately.
Over the weekend, the tennis championships were settled. Texas won the women. Baylor won the men. The golf championship in Whispering Pines, which I've played before with the late Reggie Howe in a gorgeous place in East Texas, in Trinity, Texas. Oklahoma came back from a stroke down after the next to the last round. They shortened it to 3 rounds, not 4. Not apparently, they got the story in front of me. Captured the Big 12 Men's Golf Championship, her 3rd Big 12 title, and first, though, since 2018. When we come back, a couple more notes, some more from you on chat room and text line. Some other stories, by the way, going on today in the world of sports. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. New cars and trucks are arriving weekly at the dealership, so go by and talk to the good folks over there, or go online to richardcarr.com to see their current inventory. And you can see all those great vehicles already on the lot, or the ones that will be en route very soon. And in terms of those vehicles, the ones that have yet to arrive, new cars and trucks are arriving weekly. But to ensure that you can get into a new car or truck as soon as possible, they want you to put your name down on their inbound vehicle list. Do that before anybody else, and you'll get your brand new car before anybody else. But if you're not in the market for new, you're looking to get into a car today, for example, although time definitely running out today. You need to get in a car by tomorrow. You need a vehicle. Bottom line, well, if that's the case, they want you to consider their dozens of quality pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection, so you can drive them with peace of mind, and they will pay top dollar on your trade with dozens of lending options. They say yes to loans when others say no. March meant 23 years in the automotive business for Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. And the entire time, their motto has been people you can count on, whether it's sales or award-winning collision service and Collision Center and Service Center. Richard Carr is the dealer you can count on for a great deal and superior service for the life of your car. So get your name on that inbound vehicle list to ensure that you'll be in a new ride before many others out there, or get yourself in a vehicle today by just going over to the dealership and talking to them about their new and pre-owned vehicles, or the pre-owned and used vehicles. You'll get a great deal. You'll get great customer service as well. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T, or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice, or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com, or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. I had this text on the line. This was even before, I believe before the show, from the 321. Transfer once with no punishment, I agree. If a coach recruited you, for example, and leaves, the player student should have that option. But this leave it almost any time you want seems to be without any repercussions. And we've discussed that before. I don't even know what the penalties are. We've told you what they're supposed to be.
Yeah, but like Mac Rhodes said yesterday, they're handing out so many waivers that it pretty much negates a lot of the purpose of the legislation. So they're just, they write one thing and then act the opposite way, and it negates the whole purpose of what they did from the beginning. So that's how, how well run the NCAA has been. That they do things like that. But, I'm kind of – the transfer portal is what it is, man. Like, it's not going away at this point. So, like, if you don't like it, I totally understand. I'm definitely in the camp of I don't mind it at all. I do think that it's a little bit too loosey-goosey for sure. There does seem to be basically no rules whatsoever, which – this is like if the NFL free agency didn't have any rules, basically, is what it's turning into. Just the dollar figures are ultimately a lot less. But, it's not going to change. It could change, but it's not going to go anywhere, that's for sure. And it's been interesting to kind of see this evolution, from the folks who are talking about it's going to kill college football. Well, that hadn't quite happened, but it's certainly, maybe in some cases taking a dent. But, like, Gary Bohannon, that's what the transfer portal's for. Is for a guy like him who lost out on a starting job, who's got 1 year of football basically left, to go and find a place to play his last year. That's why Aranda made the decision when he did. But there are, at the same time, a lot of others that don't make sense, that are simply, I think, people just, thinking they're better than they are. Probably not a good fit on their team in some cases. Like, I don't know. There's definitely valid reasons to enter, but there's not 1,000 or 1,500 or whatever, reasons, I think, across the board for why everybody's entering it. I do think there's a number of people who are entering it because they don't have any real maybe guidance in their life, and maybe they're doing it because they think more highly of themselves, like I said, or maybe they're hearing something from some school, and I don't know, but it's a little bit wacky.
When we had the Auburn Cole Kublik on about Auburn, he was talking about how some players may have been promised something, entered the portal, which means that's tampering.
Yeah.
And they won't do anything about that. You wish they could just show text messages, whatever, but have been promised something. They get in the portal, and all of a sudden, poof, it's gone.
I think
that's
the why they can't show text messages is because to get text messages, you need a subpoena. The NCAA doesn't have subpoena power. Mm-hmm. And that's the other thing that's happened. If anybody wonders, if you're sitting around wondering, why does this keep happening? Why does the NCAA have no leg to stand on? It's because they lose lawsuits. And they lose lawsuits because for a long time, they had a system that was fundamentally unconstitutional. And when it comes down to the letter of the law, they were always kind of skirting what is, basic American rights. And while the system is different and we got used to it, that's not how the courts see things. The courts see things of, here's the law. They lose lawsuits because they don't really have a legal leg to stand on most of the time. And so they got tired of, that's why the waivers go through, is all you need to do is, if you want your waiver to go through, is here's my attorney, the Lou P. Albini here, and he's going to do it for you. So
dude, they're like 1-45 in their last 46 matches. I mean, they really are. They've gotten their heads kicked in so many times now. To the point of you see basically the career obituary written for Mark Emmert and how scathing that was from many. And, I think some of them could have said a lot of what they said earlier, but I do think there were a lot of reporters that were, very hard on him during the course of his tenure for a lot of the inaction taken. In some cases, it's valid that he didn't take action because it was fruitless. It was pointless to do something knowing that the courts were going to probably reverse it or strike it down or whatever. But I don't know. You had it's like if a major storm's coming, you had like 5 years to know that this storm's coming. And instead of like building better shelters or, accumulating water and food sources, you just let everything stay the same. And then all of a sudden here comes this storm and you're running out of food and water and you have no shelter. And you're like, I don't know what happened. They no, it's like you had warning. You had warning this was coming. It's your fault you're in this position. And that starts and ends with Mark Emmert. And the transfer portal, though, I think it's been for anybody who's, maybe like, oh, the transfer portal sucks, Gary Bohannon's going in there. Well, hey, Josh White is a great player that's coming on board because of the transfer portal.
No, absolutely.
Apalika is a great player that came through the transfer portal. Jackson player through the so, I mean, you'd rather have it than not, even if sometimes you hate the guys that do go in there.
Here's a note from Matt Carver. Give Texas and Oklahoma road games. Brigham Young, Cincinnati, UCF, and Houston for 23 and 24. And I don't know what they're going to do, but they'll figure that out. Well, you would hope. It seems like it's pretty simple math. There's other conferences that have 14 teams. A couple of other college basketball notes that we haven't been able to get to. Mark Adams seemed like it's pretty quiet. Signed a 5-year contract, $15.5 million. It's kind of an extension to what he had, and getting more money throughout many things, perks, whatever else, and bonuses, whatever else. And so that's a neat news. 65-year-old coach got himself a little extension. Carlos Silva had that note. And then speaking of basketball, Tyrese Hunter, the young man from Iowa State who entered the portal, his teams that are down to 6 teams, Tennessee, Kansas. Boy, don't you know that would just kill the Iowa State fans if he ended up at Kansas. Gonzaga, Texas, Purdue, and Louisville. Those who at least the freshman of the year in the Big 12, Tyrese Hunter from Iowa State. That's a pretty good list, man. You can go in any of them, you're going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
Good shape. So there's the list with Tyrese Hunter as well.
Surprised Miami's not on there. Guess they're busy, though.
Well,
They've got offers out elsewhere.
Well, maybe Life Wallet guy says, listen, you can have 2.
Yeah, exactly.
I've got to go spend some money on the football team, too. So
yeah, exactly.
You can have 2 in basketball.
And this
going back to Mark Adams, though, he's done a tremendous job, obviously. I mean, we heard, a lot of good things about him before we really knew who Mark Adams was. There's often references to the magic behind the scenes that was being done. As much as Chris Beard was the focus, there was always that talk about, Mark Adams is damn good assistant and all that, and he's proven that out. And it is really interesting now because Baylor's a team heavily involved in the transfer portal. Texas team heavily involved in the transfer portal. You see the Kansases and all those schools, heavily involved in the transfer portal. It really has been, especially to Baylor and Texas Tech, a huge boost. I mean, when you think about what life would be without it, Baylor, did they win a national title? They wouldn't have Davion Mitchell. They wouldn't,
Jared Butler.
Wouldn't have Jared Butler.
Maceo Teague.
So, for any complaints about it, it's definitely for Baylor fans and for Texas Tech in basketball, definitely paid off.
Baylor just had 3 transfers. Jalen Bridges.
Well,
Cody Lohner. And also as well, God, just went blank.
The Kilgore College, which wasn't a transfer portal.
Antoine Grimes as well, who we've had all of them on the show. And one other note yesterday that's interesting, a local note. Bill Brock, longtime assistant coach to Kim Mulkey at Baylor, women's basketball coach. He has now been hired as the head women's coach at McLennan Community College. And so congratulations to Bill Brock. He was a part of the staff. He did not leave to go to LSU. He has family in the area. His name, in fact, he was interviewed, as was Satia Messer. And he now is the head coach. Sean Trokum making that decision at MCC. Back in a moment, we will hear Andy Staples, theathletic.com, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Hey, you have until 6 o'clock, you have an hour to order live crawfish at Waco Custom Marketplace, an hour. At 6 o'clock tonight, you order before then, and if you do, you'll get 30-pound sacks of live crawfish by 4 o'clock on Friday. You can go by there anytime after 4 and pick it up, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. Order any Wednesday by 6. Pick up any Friday after 4 or anytime you want as well during the weekend when they're open on Saturdays. And they have a full-fledged, constantly just, oh, man, it's fantastic, butcher shop. I put in an order today for what I wanted to pick up later in the week when it comes to bone-in ribeyes or bacon wrap fillets and other beef if you want that, or possibly what you want with pork and poultry as well. And inside, the fresh bakery. Fresh baked bread and kolaches every morning for you, along with other sweets and treats, cakes, cookie cakes, whatever else as well. And up and down the aisles, all what you would need from any kind of a regular grocery store, all the knickknacks from Rotel tomatoes to pasta and everything else in between, seasoning and sauces as well. It's Waco Custom Marketplace at 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% for 72 months with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details.
Summer driving is coming. Save now at Richard Carr's Summer is Coming savings event. Find summer savings like a 2015 GMC Sierra 2500 HD for $318 a month, or 2020 Buick Encore for $288 a month, or get a 2015 Cadillac SRX for $212 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
3rd and goal. Here's Shapen into the end zone, and how about that swagger? Another touchdown pass for Shapen. Ben Sims on the receiving end of this one.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
When I contacted Andy Staples yesterday about coming on with us, it was with his interview with Dave Aranda that is incredible, and all of us have been fortunate to have a chance to sit down with him and talk about things that are just different than talking to any coach, most human beings in a lot of different ways, and also, of course, the Mark Emmert story as well. Andy, you sat down with Dave for quite some time. How much smarter are you now after doing that?
Smarter, and that was one of the more interesting conversations I've had with a head football coach, because he looks at the world very differently than most of his peers do. And I thought it was interesting that he said when he was an assistant, he was worried about voicing some of the ideas he had for running a program because he thought the other coaches would think he was weird. And I don't think he's as weird as he thinks he is.
No, and he certainly isn't. in any other profession that he did it, people would probably not notice as much, because there's a lot of people who are like he is, more cerebral and deep thinkers than we play so-and-so football here.
Yeah, and I think part of it is he seems kind of naturally introverted, which, listen, being an introvert does not preclude you from being a successful head coach. I mean, look at Nick Saban. He's a natural introvert who has learned to deal with the public side of his job, and I think that's definitely possible. And I think it's interesting because Dave comes at things differently, and I think the decision that we found out about last night is one example of that. I mean, a lot of coaches would have just dragged that out so that Blake Shapen and Bohannon would have had to wait and couldn't enter their name in the transfer portal by Sunday so they could play somewhere else at this fall. But he made a decision, to Blake's the guy, and now Bohannon has a chance to go find a place where he can start, because he's certainly good enough to start somewhere.
Andy, don't you think that kind of speaks to the low bar that's also been set by some of the acts of head coaches who have taken those kind of actions? And yeah, I know it's not best for the player, but it's best for the program. I mean, it's just weird to me that we're complimenting Aranda so much when that should probably be the case across the country. But like I said, the bar's kind of been set low by some others.
Yeah, it is. And now there are coaches who've done this before. And like Will Muschamp, for example, tried to do the right thing in 2013. He had Jeff Driscoll and Jacoby Brissett at Florida, and he picked Driscoll as a starter and told Jacoby Brissett, I understand if you want to do whatever you want to do. I didn't want to hold you hostage here. And Brissett transfers to NC State so he can start learning. This is when you still had to sit out a year. So he transfers to NC State so he can start learning the playbook. And Driscoll gets hurt in week 3, and the season's a complete disaster for them. So I think in this Baylor situation, it's a little bit different, because I was at practice last week. I saw Kyron Drones. He looks like he could step in and play if you need him. So I think that probably makes everyone a little more comfortable with the way this worked out.
One of the things when you mentioned Aranda and some of the things he says after the spring game Saturday, he talked about how he's got a lot of young players, and they're all jovial, unlike me. He's starting to poke fun at himself at times now. I'm not sure if you've noticed that as well, because
I did.
Yeah,
and that's fun, and that's part of it. Part of it may be just getting comfortable in the role.
Yes.
One of the things we talked about was when you sort of are in a thing for the first time, and we talked about it in terms of like a freshman football player who goes from being a star in high school to just getting his butt kicked all over the practice field in college. And we talked about it in terms of Dave being a first-year head coach, and he listens to a lot of people and takes different advice, and it turns out the offense that he thought he needed for the program he wanted to run was not the right one. And he has to make the decision to fire Larry Fedora and the rest, some of those offensive staffers. And you could tell that kind of tortured him. Like, he felt really bad about having to do that. It's part of the job. And obviously the offense they run now under Jeff Grimes is probably much more suited and complementary to the way they play defense. But it just, it sort of speaks to, you don't know what you don't know. And it takes a while to get used to this, and this is a big job. So, he seems to be getting used to it and getting more comfortable.
Yeah, I asked him at Big 12 Media Days if he knew more about what he was going to do in the future as a head coach or what he would never do again after the first year, and it was the stuff he'll never do again. Like, these things are off the table. I tried them. They weren't for me, and I'm moving on. So that first year clearly was an education for him like no other.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, that first year, if it was anybody's first year, you got way more education than you probably bargained for or wanted. I mean, anybody who had to take over a program in 2020, especially first-time head coaches, like, I admire the heck out of Arkansas and Sam Pittman, because that guy came in 2020 and just turned things around completely, and that could have been an absolute disaster given that situation and given what they had done the previous couple of years. So it's not easy. And, I think to Aranda's credit, he recognized what was wrong, identified it quickly, and did something about it. And, I mean, you can't argue with the results. They turned around and won the conference.
Andy, everybody, I think, kind of when they have a great coach, kind of convinces himself of like, he loves it here. We see that every year during the coaching carousel, and he was obviously a guy that was mentioned with pretty much every major job that got opened up because of Baylor's success. But how much do you think that fit at Baylor is kind of perfect for him, because it's not the mega school with $1 billion donors and billions of dollars and all that. It is kind of, there's exposure, but it's kind of tucked away compared to maybe some other places, and it just seems to fit him, at least where he is in life right now, and his style.
Well, I go back to what Mac Rhodes told me, and he said, more than most of the coaches he's known, Dave seems to understand himself very well, and I think that matters. I'll give you an example of a guy who understood himself perfectly, and that's Chris Peterson. Chris Peterson stayed at Boise State. You're like, why is this guy not taking any of these jobs that are getting thrown his way? Well, he was waiting for the job, the Power 5 job that was the right Power 5 job, and that was Washington. Washington's a big-time program, huge fan base, decent amount of money, but also they're completely overshadowed by the Seahawks in their own town. Chris Peterson was not going to be on the front page of the Seattle Times every single day. He was not going to lead the sports broadcast on the TV news that Pete Carroll had to do that. So he understood that he could do the job he wanted with the resources he wanted in a place that was comfortable for him. I very much think that is Baylor and Dave Aranda, because Baylor has money, they have resources, they're in a great location, but they're not under a microscope the way that Texas is, or the way that Texas A&M is, or the way that Oklahoma is. And I'm not sure Dave Aranda would be comfortable under that kind of microscope. I mean, he worked at a place like at LSU where that is the life of the head coach. And I don't think that's what he'd want. He also worked at a place in Wisconsin where it's more like Baylor, where they give you what you need, you can get the players, you have a great identity, and you can win, but you don't have to deal with all that other stuff.
So, Andy, do you have any interest in becoming the next NCAA president?
Heck no. No way. Like, that job is just made for people to yell at you, because most of the decisions get made by university presidents. So, you don't have a ton of power. Now, you should be more of a consensus builder than Mark Emmert was, especially toward the end. But there's sometimes where there's nothing you can do, and all you're going to do is get yelled at.
Yeah. Andy, it seems to me, if you're ever on a job interview, at the end they say, do you have any questions for me? Every candidate should go, yeah, what is the job right now? What do you exactly want me to do?
Yeah, I don't think that's the end of the interview question. I think that's the question you ask before you go to them. Like, I need a clear picture of what you want, because, we don't know how college sports is going to be governed within the next 10, 15 years. Things are going to change pretty rapidly. And I want to know, what does the NCAA want? And by the NCAA, I'm not talking about the national office. What are the presidents of the universities who make these decisions? What do they want out of that person? Do they want someone who's going to just, be there for the death rattle and then a new organization formed somewhere else? Or do they want someone who's kind of visionary, has a big imagination, who can maybe lead them into whatever the next version is of college sports governance? And until that's made clear, I don't know that we're going to get a real idea of what the candidate pool is.
Is it real? Is it possible for the next president to be someone who can negotiate, compromise on things? Because the reason the NCAA is in this position is they decided a long time ago that there was no other way to do the things that they do, and now they've lost all ability to control everything because they weren't willing to compromise, and the other side isn't either now.
And I think a lot of the problem there was Division I was so different than Division II and different than Division III that you could never get a consensus. Like, if you actually wanted a compromise, you could never get a consensus to do it or to even make an offer. So I think that part has to get fixed before they can even think about making any compromise. Now, part of the problem with them not compromising on any of the stuff, like giving stuff to athletes, all that, is that they now have been essentially stripped of every power they had by the state governments who created the NIL laws, and by the U.S. Supreme Court and the federal court system that said basically any rule you make, we're going to view as collusion. So they've got to figure out a better way. They've got to figure out a way to have rules and enforce them without getting dragged into federal court. And the way to do that is not a way that they've really considered a possibility. The way you do that is you make the athletes employees and they form a union and you have a collective bargaining agreement. I mean, because if you do, then you can say, well, you guys agreed to this. And if somebody wants to sue, anybody can sue anybody in America, but that suit's getting kicked. The judge is going to say, you got a CBA. Take it up with your union. So as much as they have tried to avoid this probability, I wonder now, are school presidents looking at this and going, well, that actually might be the easiest thing for us at this point.
Yeah, I agree. You also have a column on A&M and the donors, and we know that they've had some great recruiting classes, and even well before it looks like NIL, although we could all have tongue-in-cheek comments about anybody that always seems to have a very high recruiting class. Your thoughts? What did you find out?
Well, they got the money flowing, and they got it flowing in a couple directions. They've got a bunch of money coming in for capital improvement, so kind of the old way, and then they're ramping up their NIL fund. They've got a collective there that they just call it the fund as a joke amongst themselves, but they have an NIL fund, which those have popped up all over. There's one that serves Tennessee. I'm writing about one for tomorrow that serves Florida. There's a big one that serves Miami. There's one that serves Oregon. Little birdie told me that Baylor might have one in the works and have one ready soon that you might be hearing about. So it's everybody's got to have something like this, something that kind of helps $30 million for this recruiting class. If they had $30 million to spend, they could have taken part of that and told Kenyon Green, the offensive lineman, and DeMar Leal, the defensive lineman, who are going to be, first or second round draft picks this week. We will match your first year NFL salary or surpass it. Stay here for another year. 2 first-team All-SEC guys, way better bet than any recruit you could sign. Well, they didn't do that because they didn't have that kind of money. They had some money and some guys got deals, but they weren't out of whack compared to what the deals were around, that same level at other schools.
Andy, you've obviously been covering the game, been a part of the game for a long time now. We all love college football. I mean, that's 95% of what this show talks about. It's what you talk about. Just knowing where we were just a few years ago and seeing what all is going on right now, I think we all are on board with NIL, and just some believe there should be a little more structure to it. But just what do you think of the current landscape of college football as it sits now?
Oh, I love it. This is what I've been waiting for years. This is America. You're worth whatever somebody wants to pay you. So if people want to buy recruits, buy them. I don't care. They basically, these guys have been stealing money from the players for years with their rules. So whatever they can get, great. And everybody who keeps saying, well, but that'll cluster the players at just a few schools. What do you think was happening before? It's really funny because A&M has the number one recruiting class after multiple years of just Alabama and Georgia kind of trading off as the number one recruiting classes. And Tennessee's now getting 5-star quarterbacks and hadn't had a 5-star quarterback committed since 2002. So they are going to other schools instead of just going to the same 3 or 4 schools. But isn't that what everybody was complaining about?
Mm-hmm.
So now they've come up with what appears to be maybe even a solution for the problem everyone's complaining about, and everybody's complaining about that.
Andy, final thing from me. Do you feel like at some point, and I saw Jack Swarbrick's comments about the imminent breakup or the imminent defection of just 1 or 2 conferences, the SEC and the Big Ten. Do you really feel like that will happen? And will that not be sustainable? And will there be kind of a revolt against it?
Well, it'll be a revolt by the people who aren't in the club.
Sure.
But, I mean, the majority, you look at the TV ratings, you'd still get the majority of the viewers. Like, if you just had those 2 leagues and then they cherry pick the best of the other leagues, you would get the majority of the college football viewers. And you would have a very booming business. But would it be fun for fans of schools that didn't get into the club? Absolutely not. They'd hate it. But it's I'm not sure what is going on now is sustainable because the SEC and the Big Ten are going to be playing a very different game 10 years from now in terms of money than anybody else.
All right, Andy, I'm going to pitch a column idea to you because you're the guy to write it. You were talking about NIL a second ago, and I know a lot of them have like pun type almost names, or FSU's is Rising Spear. I think you need to do a top 10 list of the ones that don't have a name yet. You need to write those for them.
Well, and like Texas A&M, I love that they just call it the fun. Like because the people who run it think it's weird that everybody else kind of wants to advertise, but you're right. Everybody's got these weird pun names for it. Although, like, Oregon's is like Division Street or something like that, which doesn't make, it doesn't really fit. Like, I want something quack in there. So, Addicted to Quack is a blog that covers Oregon, so I think that name is already taken. But yeah, I mean, like, Baylor's got to have some kind of Sikkim reference in there.
Yeah.
Oh, they have to. And the fact is, and you mentioned that earlier, and he kind of teased it, we've had Mac Rhodes, and we had him almost every week for quite a long time. And they're not just sitting here letting things happen. They're working behind the scenes as well.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I am curious to see how this affects Baylor, TCU, SMU, schools like that, because there is money in the alumni bases of those schools. There are resources, and so how are they going to deal with this? Are they going to be capable of getting some players that they would not have normally been able to get? Because it's not like you're probably not going to be able to get 10 guys that would have signed with Alabama or Ohio State. But what if you get one? And what if it's a quarterback or a defensive tackle or somebody who can affect every play there on the field? Like, that makes a big difference.
Andy, good stuff. Thank you very much. I enjoy the tweets of when you're traveling with what you find as far as food and nutrition. And
nutrition is a good way to put it.
Yeah. And everything else in between. Love the work, man. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Andy Staples, theathletic.com. We have a lot of the writers from theathletic.com, obviously Sam Kahn and Max Olson, Andy Staples, and many others that we've had on throughout as well. Dane Brugler, the NFL scout, NFL mock draft and NFL draft writer as well. There was a story that involves a local player here in Waco who's at Oklahoma, or was, Umoja Gibson, right?
Yeah, from Oklahoma. Honorable mention All Big 12 selection this year, 13.3 points a game last season, career 40% three-point shooter in the portal.
And he went to University High School. Is where the Waco connection comes in. Yeah. Good player. Would, if Baylor had room, you think that would make maybe some sense. Absolutely. But I think they're pretty tapped out in terms of spaces on their roster right now after the flurry of activity. But yeah, I mean, in other circumstances, maybe he would have been a candidate to come back home. But yeah, former University Trojan, and be interesting to see where he lands. But I'm with with Andy. I mean, I haven't thought about it in terms of maybe allowing a Baylor or a TCU to land maybe a guy they wouldn't otherwise. But I need to see them land a C.J. Stroud before I really buy into that. But I see where he's coming from. And it'll be interesting the longer it goes on if that does come into play. But, like Tennessee with their five-star quarterback that they may or may not have paid millions for, maybe they don't get him otherwise. Probably they don't get him otherwise. And, that's still a blue blood in so many ways, but they have been kind of on the downswing for a while now. So, yeah, maybe it amplifies a program like that's been down, or amplifies a program that is just not considered on the level of others. But I think, what he referred to there towards that 10 years from now, I mean, that's the big concern. And for somebody like him who doesn't cover some of those schools that are involved on a regular basis, like if college football just split, I don't think his job changes. He's still covering Ohio State and Texas and all that. But for people like us who do cover a Baylor, or the people that cover TCU's, like, it is something where you look at it and you go, like, yeah, that would be a freaking game changer. And so, definitely understand his point of view, though, on, the split and just how unsustainable the gap is going to be by the time the next decade rolls in, because it is going to be a massive, massive gap between the Big Ten, the SEC, and then pretty much everybody else. But again, that's basically 8, 9, 10 years off, and who the hell knows what goes on between now and then. Like, that's the thing that we can't account for. We can plan for it and all that. Mark Emmert just didn't plan for anything, but you can plan all you want, but you better have your ducks in a row, because who the heck knows what it's going to look like in 10 years. That's for sure.
When we come back, we mentioned the writers from The Athletic. One of them is an NFL writer, and John Machota, who covers the Cowboys. We have digested and discussed, read, and heard from you on the quarterback battle that has been picked, Blake Shapen, QB1 at Baylor, and we appreciate all of that. This is going to be a topic we talk about for quite some time, and then much more as well, including the Big 12 that appears UCF, Houston, and Cincinnati will be a part of the conference, along with Brigham Young, who we knew starting in 2023, 2024. So that's out there. Among the Umoja Gibson story for University High, Waco native who's now been at North Texas, Oklahoma. He has 6th year of eligibility, and he will be somewhere else, it appears, if he looks like he has hit the transfer portal. Sikkim, 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco. It's your place to get locally sourced Texas bourbons. Garrison Brothers, Balcones, right here in Waco. Devil's River, TX Whiskey, all those are locally sourced bourbons. They've got them there at Riverbend Liquor and Wine. That is the place to go if you are into bourbons, high-end, locally sourced, even if it's not local bourbon or Texas bourbon. They've got it there. They've always churning the roster of the bourbons and the craft beer. That's what they really love to do there, because that's what really keeps them going and keeps the creativity going at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, and the different products that come through there all the time. It's amazing. Their customer service is second to none. Their drive-through window is so fast, it's ridiculous. If you are in the market for any of those kind of things, you need to go by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street. Find out more on Instagram.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels, where you can get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab Lone Star with values up to $6,500, or get $3,000 bonus cash and 2.9% for 72 months. First responders get an extra $500. This year's incredible deals are at Allen Samuels in Waco. Take home power, performance, and reliability with your new 2022 Ram today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John Machota of The Athletic, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports on this Wednesday. On the eve of the NFL draft, Cowboys with the 24th pick. Jacksonville has the first pick. And we're now joined by John Machota, theathletic.com, who covers the Cowboys, but also the NFL. Is it more likely the Cowboys take blank position with their first pick, no matter if they move up or down, John?
I think it changes depending on if they move up or down. I think if they move up, they're not moving up to take one of those guards. I think if they move up, they're going to be looking at either wide receiver or potentially if one of those edge rushers or maybe even if it's like Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle out of Georgia, starts falling a little bit, maybe that would be the trade up. I think if they stay at 24, then that's when you get to Zion Johnson or Kenyon Green there. And I think they're fine with that. Don't get me wrong. I think when they go over their scenarios, I think that they're just fine with what's going to be there at 24. One of the things I love doing this time of year is with all the other writers at The Athletic is we get together and do multiple mock drafts where we each pick for the team we cover. And I've done 2 of those in the last couple of weeks. And in both situations, there's multiple teams that were willing to trade back, let's say from 16, 17, 18, that made sense for the Cowboys to move up. And in all those situations, both drafts, I was like, I'm staying at 24. I just think that the player isn't significantly better that you're going to get at 18. Now, are they going to trade up to 10? Now you get a better player there, but then you also have to give up a lot. And going over some of the stuff that the Joneses have said recently, I don't think they're going to make a significant trade up like that. If they trade up, I think it would be more like going from 24 to 18, not 24 to 10 or 11.
John, do you believe Jerry when he said Taco wasn't his call?
No, of course not. That's the one thing. Like, there's so many things you can rip the Cowboys for. I mean, we could spend the rest of the show doing that. But one of the things that I think they deserve credit for is the draft process, particularly since Will McClay took over in 2014. It is a collaborative thing, and obviously that worked out because they were going to take, if it was up to Jerry, they were going to take Johnny Manziel over Zach Martin. That one's widely publicized. But there's other instances where, hey, it's been a group effort. They're not taking guys that, particularly in the first round, that it's just one in the room, let's say Jerry Jones wants. It's what the group wants. And so because of that, no, everybody in that. Obviously, Rod Marinelli likes Taco. I think scouting staff, like with what Rod Marinelli did defensively, Taco was a better fit than TJ Watt. Now, if you have a different coaching staff, let's say you have Dan Quinn, I think then that changes. And maybe TJ Watt is the pick instead because obviously we've seen Dan Quinn's defense is just much more multiple and he'll use things in a variety of ways as opposed to being set with the way that things were done. But I mean, no, Jerry wouldn't have signed off on it if he was absolutely against Taco Charlton. They liked Taco Charlton, but mainly because of how they thought he was going to fit in their defense. And obviously he did.
So you don't quite believe that. Do you believe Jerry when he says that the Kelvin Joseph situation doesn't really impact what they might do at corner in the draft?
Nope, don't believe that either.
Okay.
I could see them taking corner as early as 24, and then we'll sit there after the draft. The first round's over tomorrow night, and he'll say questions about how, about it, and he'll say, well, we didn't know that player was going to be. We'll use Andrew Booth from Clemson as an example.
Yeah.
But we really like him, and we don't have all these other corners under contract for several years, so we just thought he was the best player available. But actions speak louder than words. If they take a corner with one of those first, it doesn't even have to be the first round. It could be in the second or third. I think that speaks loud and clear about how they feel about the Kelvin Joseph situation.
How do you feel about them moving around within the later rounds of the draft?
I mean, I can see them doing that. I mean, when you have 4 fifth-round picks, that makes a lot of sense. And I can see them maybe packaging some of those up and maybe moving up in the 4th round or packaging a couple of those so that they have 2 fourth-round picks. It's certainly possible. But when you hear Stephen Jones talk about how they think that the middle of this draft is so loaded because of a lot of those, 6-year seniors, super seniors, they call them, over the last few years, he thinks that there could be some good depth there. I understand that. So maybe you sit there and you make all 4 picks in the 5th round and you stay right where you're at. My issue is that they've been awful drafting in the 5th round over the last 10 years. I mean, just awful. I mean, it just hasn't even. So it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, so the strength of the draft is in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. 3rd, 4th, and 5th round, you're hoping to maybe get a starter here or there and more of a rotational guy. Like, is this team really getting better because you added 1 starter in the middle there and then a couple, like 2 or 3 other rotational guys? I mean, yeah, maybe it is a little bit, but it's about the impact players that you can bring in. That's clearly what you need, particularly on defense. You need more guys that can make an immediate impact, and Dan Quinn can move them around, use them as chess pieces, things like that, as opposed to, having some, extra 4th and 5th round picks that, barely even play at all and are just special teams guys.
There's no question if you find that franchise guy like a Micah Parsons or whoever it is with the 1st round, that's when you need to hit that pick. You can't miss on it, and everybody does at some point. Where do you win the draft, in your opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say, I mean, it's tough because, the Cowboys draft as well early on as anybody has over the last decade. And obviously they haven't won very much and don't have much to show for it. So as much as I would like to say you got to win that 1st round because that's where you get your impact players, especially when you're a team like the Cowboys who aren't spending in free agency on other teams' players. But to me, when you look at so for the Cowboys, it makes the 1st round even more important. But if you're talking about a whole entire league, how to win the draft, I feel like you got to get good players in that 3rd and 4th round. 1st round, everybody knows who those guys are. Even in the 2nd, it gets that. The 3rd and 4th round is where, you either get a Tony Pollard or a Michael Gallup, or you get a Connor McGovern or a Connor Williams, and the Cowboys, I feel like too much have probably taken chances in that 2nd round on guys because of injuries or off the field, as opposed to just taking the best player that's ready to go right then and there. And so maybe because of Randy Gregory leaving, maybe because of the Kelvin Joseph off the field, maybe because of what they ultimately got out of Jalen Smith, maybe they've learned from that. Maybe we won't see that this year. But I just think that you got to be better. You got to be good in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think that if you look across the league at teams that have had success, they've been able to find good players in that 2nd and 3rd round because I can't sit here and lie. The 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round, I mean, there's a lot of luck that comes in it, finding Dak Prescott, and things like finding Tom Brady. That's a lot of luck. That isn't a lot of, this is where we just had our board set up perfectly. So I think if you can draft really well in the 2nd or 3rd round, you'll be in good shape.
Well, I don't know if Kelvin Joseph would have to be the last straw on the camel's back for them to learn in just a year.
Well, I meant because of the fact of also that. Well, no, hold on. I'm going to pitch this one to you guys because I don't know how you feel about this. I don't feel like, because I've heard some people say this that have covered the team, and obviously I listen to Sports Talk Radio and I'm on Twitter. There's some people that think that like the Randy Gregory thing panned out. I don't think it did. If you factor in all the time that they put into him and everything that you got out of that 2nd round pick, I don't think that risk of taking him late in the 2nd round worked out. And it would have. I felt like if he would have resigned, but now that he's gone, what did you get from him? So I'm saying, and then also I factor in Jalen Smith too, because obviously that didn't work out either. So those 3 are some of your most recent 2nd round picks where you took a little bit of a flyer on, whether it be off the field or injuries. And I don't think they've worked out for you.
Did any of those guys help the Cowboys win an NFC championship? No. Then it did not work out. And especially given Randy Gregory was just kind of, most people had kind of written off even seeing him again. The good part of that story was that he's able to have an NFL career, but he's not going to help the Cowboys win anything anymore. So no, absolutely.
He started 12 games in his career. Is that right? I'm looking up his stats on NFL.com. He absolutely started just 12 games. He was a 2nd round pick. He missed 17 and 19 No, he was not. No, he did not meet the second round criteria. He was a headache. He was a hell of a talent, and when he was on, he was really on, but he wasn't Charles Haley, who was sometimes people whacked out with him, but he played and he won and he did things.
And there could be a part where I really think that the deal that the Broncos gave Randy Gregory, the Cowboys might have lucked out in this whole thing because they didn't give. I mean, Randy Gregory's this past season was his best chance to show his best ball. And, like you said, so he started 12 games, 11 of those starts came last year. And he ended up with, 6 sacks? I mean, that's his career high, is 6 sacks. So it's like, I think there is still plenty of tread left on the tire, and I think Randy Gregory can still be a very good player. But there's also just as good of a chance that he ends up, that's what he is. He's 6 sacks, and he's a really solid right defensive end. But for what they were going to pay him and what Denver did, you need more than that, and you need better than what you've gotten up to this point. And so I'm not second-guessing the decision to move on. I do question the way Jerry Jones talked yesterday about it, acting like, well, we weren't really that interested in that. We were more interested in getting 2 players for 1 when he talks about Dante Fowler and Dorrance Armstrong. I don't believe that. Jerry really wanted Randy back. So, hindsight's 20/20 with that. But I'm just saying there is the chance, and I think it's a decent one, that they look back and they're like, you know what, we were probably better off not doing that contract.
Yeah, the decision to let him walk or whatever happened there, that's part of business. We've been talking all day for the last 24 hours almost about Baylor making a decision about who their number 1 quarterback is and the decisions that go with that as well, with people moving on or not. John, thank you. Good luck covering that draft. I know it's most likely somehow there'll be drama for everybody, but obviously with the Cowboys, you'll have to be, you'll be. I don't know what they're going to do, but good luck.
I appreciate it. To be honest with you guys, this is the most fun part of the season for me.
No, you're right. I mean, because you're acquiring talent. You're watching it happen. If you're a writer, you got stories and stuff, or you got background things or whatever. Armstrong, I just sent you an email. I want to put that image up real quick. I know Paul's top 5 is coming up next as well. Appreciate John Machota. So Michael, let me see. Michael Campbell, who's a huge Notre Dame fan, texts all the time, even when we're on the air or when we're not. He gives us updates on Notre Dame and Marcus Freeman. They just got another big commitment from a 4-star player. He sent me this image. Do we have it, Armstrong? Look at the prices. And I know that for none of you in this room, none of you remember this. But look at he just threw this out there randomly. He was 2 years old. I was 13. Look at the prices on that menu.
I was -8, so I wasn't.
Craig was -12.
Yeah, I remember when everything was 99 cents or like 75. But yeah,
of course you could do that with anything. I know. He just happened to. Michael, I appreciate back and forth with Michael.
20 cents for a large orangeade.
Yeah, a quarter pounder with cheese, 70 cents. It's pretty nice.
They should bring that back.
When we come back,
they had
better ingredients, actual real ingredients probably in most of those cases too, versus whatever mystery meat we eat now.
Look at now what they have on their menu, and there's this used to be what is called fast food. You could order something quickly, get it quickly, and move on quickly. Now, with all due respect, it could take you forever just to read the menu.
I gotta say, this is I'm in a getting old sign. You're like, man, remember the McDonald's menus back in 1972 and how that used to be?
But I was trying to give Michael Campbell a love.
No, I'm just having fun with it. But yeah,
do you remember when we walked to school backwards in the snow
here's the part that will probably be alarming to you, is, maybe you'd hear that number and you'd think, oh, that's 25, 30 years ago. It's 50 years ago now at this point. Yeah. It's 50 years ago. So, yeah, it's changed.
And I said I was 13.
But Michael, that's cool to look back on and kind of not cool to look back on, given I could, spend, $50 just getting a few menu items now.
Craig, I don't appreciate you saying that McDonald's is mystery meat. It's very clearly raccoon.
Yeah, I don't think it's even that level of meat, to be perfect. It's whatever the lab created is what it is.
One note about Marcus Freeman, Michael Campbell. The note was Brian Kelly, Notre Dame's academic standards are too high to recruit top classes. Marcus Freeman, hold my beer. Because they are having a nice run. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5, Sick 'em 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty and PettyClinicLowT.com can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be. How does he do that? Well, you have to make the first move. Contact him on his website, PettyClinicLowT.com, email or phone number. Tell him David Smoak sent you. What he can do is find out what might be going wrong with you as you get older, and it doesn't mean you have to be my age that understands what 1972 or when it was. But as you get older, 30s even, 40s, 50s, things happen. Father time starts to win. Things don't work as well, including you don't sleep as well. Your energy's not the same, and your sex drive can be a problem as well. He can help find that out if that's you. One out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. Of what I mentioned, get your test results. He'll get you the blood set up. He'll go get you the appointment, get your blood, look at the lab results, and then put you in a program, if your testosterone levels are too low, to increase it so you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year, whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 NFL draft predictions. These are my predictions, and if they're not right, then of course they're not right. It's the NFL draft. Nobody can predict it. It's not, the
best I've ever seen at the NFL draft in the first round as far as mock is Rick Gosselin, Hall of Fame writer, used to be with the Dallas Morning News, still does some things, podcast, but he was really good at that.
Yeah, and he was only getting like 16 on a good year.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. It's not like Joe Lenardi who had that perfect bracketology that year where he just nailed it, like even the regions and everything.
Remember that. Okay.
Yeah, he had one. And that's like what he does all year long is figure out that stuff. So, number 5, no current player is traded on night 1, and maybe not throughout the weekend, but I think that all the other dominoes have to fall, and nobody's going to really want to give up a massive first-round pick. You heard Shereen Williams earlier talk about it, that unless the 49ers get totally bowled over, they have no reason to trade Debo. It's just about getting the money done. And once they get the money done, they will. Saquon Barkley's at a huge contract. A.J. Brown, that's probably not going to happen either. The Titans have no impetus to trade him either.
When will Baker Mayfield get traded?
That's the question.
Cares to acquire Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, Baker Mayfield, I wouldn't think will get traded until the third day when the quarterback options
Quarterbacks are either gone and you look up and you still don't really know.
Yeah.
And even then, maybe it doesn't happen.
Yeah, I got to say, it was weird with him back in Norman last weekend getting his statue unveiled, but there he is, like, NFL-wise, just in complete no man's land, really. I feel like that probably didn't hinder the event in any way, but it hindered some of the star power, his star power in a way. But yeah, I mean, I'm very curious to see where he lands. And yeah, I don't expect to, like in particular with Debo, I don't know any better than you or anyone else for that matter, but I don't expect that'd be stupid on San Francisco's part. Like, I mean, that's the thing that I come back to is like, why? Why would they do that? Why would they do that? I don't care how disgruntled he is or whatever. He's gonna get his money at some point.
He'll be gruntled.
Yeah, he'll be totally gruntled and rich.
What's his value? I mean, he's a great receiver, and he's also a really good dynamic guy in the backfield. If you're going to trade all that crap for him, you're going to want him to do the same thing. And what is the one thing he's complaining about, although we know it's money, is he doesn't want to be used as much as a running back. That's the value. That's what made him such a freak.
Or he would like running back value in his contract.
Kind of like Taysom Hill try to get value as a quarterback rather than as a tight end or whatever.
Exactly. Look, he wants it all factored in.
Yes.
Like, look, it's if you're going to use
fair.
Yeah. He's going to use it's the same thing as
agree.
Linebacker defensive ends, when they got franchised.
And they'll eventually settle somewhere with that.
This isn't just a guy who is complaining about his money. This is a guy who's got a very unique situation because he is kind of being used as almost a double player, but paid like a wide receiver.
And in the last year of his rookie deal.
Yes.
And this is what they do.
So he just wants money. Like everything else. Like John McClain said. Again, always about the money.
Yeah. Everybody likes to be able to stand on the hill and be like, listen, I have principles. No, none of us do. It's about the money.
Dave Aranda does.
Yeah. Apparently. But number 4, the Cowboys stay put. I just don't. This is not a draft that has somebody in it to me that would make them go gaga and move up crazily. I know that the price for picks this year is probably not as stiff as it has been in the past, but I don't see it. I think this is a draft where they stay put. And if they don't stay put, I would bet on them trading back with one of those teams like, say, Kansas City that has 2 first-round picks.
But they will be mentioned probably more than anybody else, other than those who have multiple picks, the most when it comes to trade talk because it'll get the attention.
Oh, you just wait, Paul, until Jamison Williams is sitting there. And
yeah, I know. And then I'll be wrong.
Yeah, no, I mean, that would be a move that I could totally see them making.
Oh, and he's got a torn ACL, which they love.
Yeah, exactly. It makes him even more of a prospect. No, I mean, but you know how they are. I mean, if there's like the next CeeDee Lamb sitting there or whatever, they would be tempted. But no, I think at this point they probably stay put unless, what happens in front obviously gets a little chaotic.
Well, look, they re-signed a guy with a torn ACL in Michael Gallup. If they draft one who tore his ACL after Michael Gallup to play the same position that Michael Gallup plays would be insane.
They also drafted Jalen Smith when people were predicting he may never play football again.
He had drop foot.
Yeah. which I've had, and that sucks. That's scary. That's scary stuff. I'm glad he got over that like I did. That's scary, though.
Drop foot is one of the scariest sounding things in the world.
Just imagine you can't move your foot. Like, no matter what you do that you would normally be able to move your foot up and down, it doesn't move, and it's frightening because it's like having a dead foot, basically.
Yeah. Number 3, the Eagles and or Saints package and move up for a wide receiver. I think these are the two teams that need them the most. They've got 2 picks in the first round, and they want to make sure that they get a good one. And when the run starts happening, or if, say, it's Drake London, and the Eagles want to get up to 10 or 9 to go get him if he's still there, I could see them doing that because they have the 2 first-round picks. They can make it happen, and they need someone who is a big-time receiver in all aspects of it. And they did really well with Devontae Smith, but they need somebody to pair with him because Jalen Reagor so far has proved to be an okay punt returner and hasn't played a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, don't know too much about either one of their plans, but I have seen the scuttlebutt involving that, and there are, some teams that do have quite a little arsenal of picks at their disposal that they could use. So, yeah, that'd be very intriguing to see either one of them make a move.
Another team with an arsenal of picks for the first time in a long time because Bill O'Brien didn't value them or the current superstars on his roster. At number 2, the Texans move the 13th pick. I think once they draft whoever they're going to draft at 3, they'll wait and then move back a little bit at 13 and pick up more picks because there is not one single position. I apologize to you, Davis Mills, but there's not one single position on the Texans that you could not convince me that they could find a better player in the draft than they have right now.
Yeah, I mean, I get that there's some things that people like about Davis Mills, but when John McClain was so matter-of-fact about him, I'm just like, really? We all are that sure on this guy right now? But, yeah, the Texans have a lot at their disposal. New head coach in Lovie Smith. And I want to say it was Nick Caserio was talking, I guess, pre-draft stuff, and they were asking him about what the percentages were of them, I guess, using both picks, actually sitting there and selecting. And he said 99% with that first one. And then it's more I don't know what he said, maybe 80 or maybe even less than that with that second one. So he definitely let it be known that second one could be moving somewhere. So, yeah, they got a lot of – it's an exciting draft for the Tech. Didn't they had no first-rounder last year? Was that right?
No first-rounder for the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's been a while.
No second-rounder last year either. I mean,
so they'll have a fun time here over the next few days, Texans fans.
Number 1, the Jags take Trayvon Walker, number 1 overall. Here's why I think this. Shad Khan is tired of Trent Baalke. I think he's kept Trent Baalke on to do the administrative work leading up to the draft. Baalke should take Aiden Hutchinson, who's more of a sure thing than Trayvon Walker, but Shad Khan doesn't like sure things. He likes flash and dash, and Trayvon Walker's that guy, even though I do think the best things they do, even though they signed Cam Robinson to an extension today, their franchise left tackle, they should draft a right tackle because the most important thing for the Jaguars in this draft is putting big people in front of Trevor Lawrence, which they need to do badly, but I don't know if they do that until the second round, which they still might get a good one then, but I think they take Trayvon Walker here, and then Trent Baalke by June 1st is the ex-GM of the Jaguars.
Well, man, that would be great news. I don't know why Baalke has been so just bulletproof there, almost it seems like, or at least he's stuck around. But yeah, I mean the Jags. Gosh, you already got Trevor Lawrence, so you're right, man. I mean, get him some blockers, keep him healthy, and let him, have the room to be able to sit back there and use that golden arm of his. But, man, that was a rocky first year. That franchise is just sort of a mess. But now with Doug Peterson, you hope that can kind of stabilize, and maybe they finally got the right guy in there because the Urban Meyer thing was an absolute disaster. So curious to see how their new era starts off with that pick, and Walker makes sense.
All right, Paul, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Also, Craig Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Faith Lynch in the studio, so the guys got fed. Jack McKenzie, Emery Winter, and Armstrong Sims is happier than I've seen him in quite some time. Thank you. I'm telling you right now, so many of you, not just while we're on the air with the chat room or the text line, well before that, Twitter questions and comments and on the board at Sikkim365.com on the quarterback decision and so much more. Thank you very much. And our great sponsors. I'm David Smoak. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and